Chapter 1344. Zhao Wendeng strode to the side of the corpse and pushed aside bodyguard Zhu, who was in front of him. Then, he reached out and prepared to lift the white cloth that covered the corpse. With a whoosh sound, before Zhao Wendeng's hand could touch the white cloth, the corpse lying on the stretcher suddenly sat up. It lifted the white cloth on its body and stared blankly in front of it. What the f***ck? The corpse actually came back to life. Zhao Wendeng was the closest, so he was instantly shocked. He staggered and his upper body lost its center of gravity. He fell backward and sat on the ground. His hand trembled as he pointed at Guardian Zhang's corpse, and his entire body shivered. The crowd was instantly in an uproar. Many people were so scared that their faces turned pale, and they quickly retreated. After all, such a person with a pale face and bloodstains all over his body suddenly sat up from under the white cloth. Anyone would be shocked. Bodyguard Zhu was also quite frightened, but he was not as disheveled as Zhao Wendeng. He only retreated a few steps, then stared at the big hole in bodyguard Zhang's chest, and asked in a trembling voice, "Senior Brother Zhang, how did you come back to life? Did I see wrongly? You really didn't die. But that's not right. You've suffered such serious injuries, how can you still be alive? Stop fooling around." Bodyguard Zhang, who was sitting there, had an unchanged expression. He stared straight ahead and said, "I've already been lying there for so long, and I can't be bothered to pretend to be dead anymore. You guys should hurry up and carry me back. I don't want to stay here and embarrass myself anymore. Anyway, whether the Qin family pays for the spirit crystals or not has nothing to do with me. I've been lying there for so long, and my waist is about to break." Although he said a long paragraph, anyone who paid attention would notice that bodyguard Zhang's voice did not have the slightest hint of emotion. Not only did it sound cold, but it was also a little unclear. Everyone saw it clearly, right? Just as bodyguard Zhang finished speaking, Xiaoyou's voice sounded again, and he said with a slight tremble, "Am I right? That person really didn't die. Even he said that he was only pretending. Now that the truth is out, Zhao Wendeng, do you still want to quibble?" When Nurse Zhang suddenly sat up, Xiaolu was also slightly stunned. Although the order he received was only to cause trouble, he was still a little scared when he saw a dead person sit up with his own eyes. Fortunately, this brat was quick-witted and immediately came to his senses. He took the opportunity to give Nurse Zhang a push with his words. This. Zhao Wendeng had just climbed to his feet with great difficulty. When he heard this, he immediately froze on the spot. His eyes stared straight at Guardian Zhang's corpse. He wanted to explain further, but he didn't know what to say. "What do you mean by this and that? You've done such a despicable thing. You purposely found an injured person to pretend to be a dead person just to extort money from us. You're too shameless. What an unfilial son. Not only did you pretend to be dead, you even invited people to bring your father's portrait and cursed your own father to vomit blood and die. You really don't have any humanity at all." "That's right. Not only that, he often bullies others and bullies ordinary people like us. I've long disliked him. Everyone, let's attack together and chase them away." The crowd had just calmed down from their previous fear. When they heard Xiaoyou's words, they once again roared angrily. Some people couldn't even suppress the anger in their hearts. They randomly picked up a stone from the ground and threw it at Zhao Wendeng. Seeing someone throw something, the others naturally couldn't suppress their anger from being scared and cheated. They immediately grabbed whatever they could get their hands on, even things that they were already holding in their hands, and threw it at Zhao Wendeng. Some eggs, tomatoes, rotten vegetable leaves, and other things suddenly flew into the air and were thrown at the scene. The entire scene was a mess. F***ck your grandpa. Who the f***ck dares to throw a rock at me? Ow. Aya. Woo! Woo woo woo! Zhao Wendeng was caught off guard and hit squarely by the rock. Blood immediately flowed from his forehead. He was so angry that he wanted to curse again, but his mouth was blocked by a smashed live fish. It was stuck in his throat and he couldn't speak. He could only keep waving his hands for help. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and carry Guardian Zhang away. Are you waiting to be smashed to death again? Guardian Zhu stood beside Zhao Wendeng and was hit a few times for no reason. He couldn't be bothered to see who was hitting him. He quickly covered his body with primordial energy to prevent himself from getting injured. Then, he ordered his subordinates to carry the stretcher away. He then pulled Zhao Wendeng and ran back to the Zhao family as though he was escaping. However, in the chaos, no one noticed that Guardian Zhang, who was originally sitting up and half lying on the stretcher, had quietly laid back down again. His eyes were tightly shut, and he didn't move at all. He allowed the debris to land on his body, but he didn't make a move to resist at all. He didn't even make a sound. Through his divine sense, Xiao Chen, who was standing at the Qin family's entrance, saw the Zhao family's people fleeing in panic. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he nodded in satisfaction. Guardian Zhang's sudden resurrection and loud speech was actually Xiao Chen's doing. He had attached his psyche energy to Guardian Zhang's body and controlled him to stand up and speak. He had successfully intimidated the group of people outside. Now that the matter had ended satisfactorily, and Zhao Wendeng had also received the punishment he deserved, Xiao Chen retracted his psyche energy. He hummed a tune with his hands behind his back and turned to return to his room. Zhao Wendeng and a few of his subordinates finally ran home in a sorry state. They endured the nausea and cleaned up the rotten vegetables on their bodies. Only then did they realize that Guardian Zhang, who had been resurrected from the dead, was lying back down again. He was no longer breathing. Helpless, Zhao Wendeng could only choose to immediately find his father, Zhao Shimu, and report the situation. Although it was a little embarrassing, he still honestly explained the farce that followed and raised his suspicion. He thought that the Qin family might have specially invited someone over to slander his father's death. How dare they? After listening to Zhao Wendeng's report, Zhao Shimu could not help but slam the table heavily. His eyes were about to emit smoke. Zhao Wendeng stood silently to the side, afraid that his father would vent his anger on him. When he thought of the scene of Guardian Zhang coming back to life, he felt a chill run from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He didn't feel well. Zhao Shimu did not notice Zhao Wendeng's expression. Instead, he said with a sullen expression, "Those bastards from the Qin family really think that they're very great. They killed 2 people from the Zhao family and snatched some of our business. Now, they don't know how much they're worth. They actually dared to provoke us and even used my portrait to parade around the city. Are they tired of living?" Chapter 1345. Fa. Father, I think you don't have to worry about this matter. We will make the Qin family pay the price sooner or later. Zhao Wendeng hesitated for a moment and asked, "Now there is another thing that I can't understand. That Guardian Zhang was clearly dead. How did he suddenly come back to life and speak? I have never been able to understand this question." After all, resurrecting the dead had exceeded the scope of Zhao Wendeng's understanding. Therefore, he always had a lingering fear about this matter and felt very anxious. "Why can't you understand this?" Zhao Shimu snorted and said faintly, "It must be that old thing Qin Xingling has broken through to the golden core stage." What does resurrection have to do with breaking through to the golden core stage? Zhao Wendeng blinked his eyes in confusion. He couldn't figure out the connection. "Wendeng, you are also an immortal cultivator yourself. You should have some knowledge in this area." Zhao Shimu looked at his son reproachfully and said in a deep voice, "As long as they reach a certain level, not only can immortal cultivators control the minds of others, but they can even make the dead sit up. What's so strange about this?" Although it was clear and logical, Zhao Shimu had actually never seen the ability of a high-level immortal cultivator. He was just guessing based on the scene at that time. In the end, he was really right. Then wouldn't it be more difficult for us to deal with the Qin family in the future? Why don't we let our clan's revered elder make the first move and secretly get rid of Qin Xingling? In case more trouble arises in the future. Zhao Wendeng frowned and suggested with a solemn expression. At this time, Zhao Wendeng was very glad that he didn't do anything irrational in the Qin family just now. If he listened to Guardian Zhu's suggestion and directly rushed into the Qin family to demand an explanation, his life was very likely to be left in the Qin family today. That old thing thinks that after successfully breaking through to the Golden Core stage, he can compete with our Zhao family? Zhao Shimu knocked on the table, and a cunning look suddenly flashed in his eyes. Father, do we still have a trump card? Zhao Wendeng felt a little surprised when he saw his father suddenly show such a look. Is there any information about the Zhao family that I don't know? Zhao Shimu slowly took a sip of tea and then said leisurely, it seems that the Qin family hasn't received the latest news. In fact, our Zhao family already has 2 Golden Core stage masters. It's just a matter of time to wipe out the Qin family. This. Father, are you joking with me? Doesn't our clan only have 1 Oris Core stage cultivator? When did we suddenly have another one? Zhao Wendeng was puzzled. Could it be that his father had invited another Gold Core stage cultivator back, but he didn't let him know about it? Golden Core stage, Zhao didn't know about it. To have about it. Zhao have tes and Zhao ti, he. Whe Zhao to say. T, Zhao, to say, Zhao to Zhao, to T, to. He is your grandfather's uncle. He used to travel around and just returned to the Zhao family at the beginning of this year. Really? So our Zhao family still has such a powerful person. Zhao Wendeng got excited and asked tentatively, then what's the level of my great-uncle now? Zhao Shimu smiled proudly and said unhurriedly, he's already at the 6th level of the Golden Core stage. It's just that the Zhao family hasn't announced it to the public, so only a few people know about it. So powerful. Zhao Wendeng's eyes immediately lit up. He waved his hand impatiently and said, then we don't have to worry about the Qin family anymore. We can just let great-great-uncle and that Gold Core stage cultivator destroy them together. After we exterminate the Qin family, Yanlin Town will be our Zhao family's world. If Xiaochen wasn't here, Zhao Wendeng's declaration would indeed sound like it. Although Golden Core stage masters weren't rare in the entire immortal cultivation world, in this remote town, they were already considered top-notch masters. If there were 2 Golden Core stage masters at home, then no matter how unscrupulous Zhao Wendeng was in Yanlin Town, he would have enough confidence. You don't have to worry about this matter. I'll go and ask them first, then we'll see how to deal with it later. Zhao Shimu waved his hand and stood up to leave the study. After taking 2 steps, he stopped and turned around to look at Zhao Wendeng. He warned him sternly, don't run around if you have nothing better to do. Stay at home for a period of time and wait for the limelight to pass. Oh, got it. Zhao Wendeng shrunk his neck and nodded helplessly. He thought to himself, I'll restrain myself for a while first. After my great-uncle reveals his power, see if I don't trample all of you to pieces. Zhao Shimu looked at Zhao Wendeng's sullen expression and couldn't help but roll his eyes. He thought to himself, it's all your fault, you stinking brat. You make me have to clean up your mess every time. You really can't do anything right, but you're good at spoiling things. After warning Zhao Wendeng a few more sentences, Zhao Shimu left the study with slightly hesitant footsteps and walked towards a secret room in the Zhao family's backyard with a perturbed mood. Because that old ancestor and the Golden Core stage revered elder had been in closed-door cultivation during this period of time, researching on how to continue breaking through and advancing, Zhao Shimu didn't dare to disturb the 2 of them unless he delivered some water and food. But the current situation had already reached a critical juncture for the Zhao family. If they still didn't suppress the Qin family, it would probably be very difficult for the Zhao family to have a foothold in Yanlin town in the future. After today's disturbance, the Zhao family's reputation and finances should be greatly affected. Helpless, Zhao Shimu had no choice but to let these two experts come out and help keep up appearances. Even if it would disturb their cultivation, there was nothing he could do. Dong, dong, dong. Not long after, Zhao Shimu arrived outside a man-made rockery by the lake in the backyard. He pushed open a secret compartment in the stone wall and went in. After a few turns, he walked to the front of a sealed house and knocked on the door respectfully. "Who is it?" As soon as the knock on the door fell, a cold voice came from inside the room. That voice obviously carried killing intent, showing that this person was obviously extremely disgusted with the guest who suddenly came to visit. Great-grandfather, please forgive me. I'm Zhao Shimu." Feeling the anger transmitted by the person in the room, Zhao Shimu bowed slightly and reported very humbly. Chapter 1346. Grand Duke Zhao's attitude did not soften just because Zhao Shimu was the head of the family. He continued to speak impatiently. "Didn't I warn you not to let anyone disturb us other than during mealtime? What's wrong? Don't you have ears?" Zhao Shimu could not help but shiver. He explained in a low voice, "Great-grandfather, I'm really sorry. I have something urgent to discuss with you and Senior Guan. It's about..." Without waiting for Zhao Shimu to finish, Grand Duke Zhao interrupted him mercilessly, "If it's nothing important, wait until dinner time to report to me. Brother Guan and I are currently cultivating. We don't have the time to care about your trivial business." "No. That's not it. What I want to report is very important." Zhao Shimu wiped the sweat off his forehead. He did not dare to be negligent. He quickly recounted how Guardian Zhang had been beaten to death for no reason, and how Zhao Wendang had gone to the Qin clan to demand an explanation. In the end, he had been ruthlessly ridiculed by the Qin clan, and could only flee back to the Zhao clan. In the process of describing this matter, Zhao Shimu deliberately added oil and vinegar. He described the Qin family as abominable, and the Zhao family as innocent and pitiful people who were bullied by others. His purpose was to attract the attention of this great-great-uncle. Crash, as expected, just as Zhao Shimu finished his description, the sound of glass shattering rang out in the secret room. It was as if something had been ruthlessly smashed on the ground. Before Zhao Shimu could react, the door to the room opened. An old man with a furious expression walked out with vigorous steps. Behind him was another old man in black with a calm expression. "Zhao Shimu, is what you just said true? When did this happen?" The old man walking in front had a ferocious look in his eyes. It was Zhao Wendeng's great-grandfather, Zhao Xingxuan. Although he was already in his prime, his face was ruddy and did not look old at all. As soon as he walked out of the secret room, he immediately questioned Zhao Shimu solemnly. "Reporting to great-grandfather, everything I said is true. It happened in the past 2 days. Wendang was just bullied. He is now covered with injuries, so he went to see a doctor." Zhao Shimu quickly added, deliberately putting on a look of humiliation on his face. "Brother Guan, we've been discussing this for so many days, but our cultivation is still stagnant. Why don't we put it aside for now and go out to exercise a bit? Let's kill a few brats from the Qin clan and establish our might. What do you think?" Zhao Xingxuan asked the black-robed old man behind him with a cold smile. The black-robed old man was the guest invited by the Zhao family. Although his cultivation level was higher than Zhao Xingxuan's, he was younger than Zhao Xingxuan, so after the two became familiar with each other, they usually called each other brothers. "Ha ha ha." The black-robed old man laughed heartily and casually moved his shoulders. He said lightly, "Since Brother Zhao is so interested, I will naturally be happy to accompany you. Anyway, it's been quite boring to stay in the secret chamber these days. I haven't killed anyone for a long time, and my hands are a little itchy. There's no harm in taking a stroll. Good. Then let's go have some fun. A cruel smile appeared on Zhao Xingxuan's face. He then waved his hand and said, Zhao Shimu, let's go. Lead the way. Let's go to the Qin clan for a stroll. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan didn't have much interest in the grudges between his family and others. Usually, he liked to study the way of immortal cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left home at such a young age to travel the Jianghu. He hadn't returned home for so long. But now that he was in his family, how could Zhao Xingxuan turn a blind eye to this? Moreover, Zhao Xingxuan had recently advanced to the 6th level of the Golden Core stage. He was looking for an opportunity to test his strength. He didn't expect that someone would take the initiative to provoke his family. Wasn't this a fat piece of meat that was sent to his mouth? If he didn't eat it now, when would he? All right, both of you, this way. Hearing Zhao Xingxuan's order, Zhao Shimu immediately agreed. He hurriedly led them in the direction of the Qin clan. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. This was because Zhao Shimu knew very well that although Zhao Xingxuan's identity was the family's great uncle, he was still a distant relative. He didn't have much sense of belonging to the Zhao clan. Usually, he was only interested in cultivation. This time, when Zhao Xingxuan returned, he made a prompt decision to promise him that the Zhao clan would provide him with enough treasures. In addition, there would be a Golden Core stage cultivator who could discuss the mysteries of cultivation with him. That was why Zhao Xingxuan agreed to stay. Originally, Zhao Shimu thought that he would have to spend a lot of effort to invite these two people. He even calculated that as long as he could invite a Golden Core stage expert, it would be enough to exterminate the Qin clan. In the end, he didn't expect that after a few words, these two experts would actually be willing to stand up for the Zhao clan. To Zhao Shimu, this could be said to be a complete surprise. The three of them quickly arrived at the gate of the Qin clan. At this time, the crowd of onlookers had already dispersed. They only saw rotten leaves and smashed eggs all over the ground. It looked very tragic. When he thought about how Zhao Wendeng was insulted by the people here just now, and how he fled home in such a sorry state, Zhao Shimu's expression didn't look too good. At this time, Xiao Lu was cleaning at the door with a few servants. When he saw strangers coming over, he quickly went up to greet them. May I ask who the three of you are looking for? Zhao Shimu, why are you here? Xiao Lu had just greeted them when he took a closer look and realized that the people who came were the Zhao clan's patriarch, Zhao Shimu, and two old men. He immediately blurted out in surprise. What did you call me? Zhao Shimu didn't expect that a servant would dare to call his name directly. He thought that he had heard wrongly, so he asked in disbelief. Xiao Lu, who was originally a little afraid of the Zhao clan, was in high spirits after experiencing the humiliation of Zhao Wendeng just now. When he saw Zhao Shimu, he was no longer afraid. He teased with a faint smile, Zhao Shimu, could it be that you think it's too embarrassing for your son to make up such a farce, so you specially came to apologize to our old master Qin? He. How dare you? Zhao Shimu couldn't bear it anymore and scolded. Then, he raised his hand and slapped Xiao Lu. He shouted with a gloomy face, how can a servant like you call my name directly? Hurry up and call that old bastard Qin Shengling out. You're quite bold. How dare you make fun of my son? Today, I'll make your entire Qin clan die a horrible death. Chapter 1347. It was clearly your son who picked a fight first. How dare you accuse him first? Ouch! Caught off guard, Xiao Lu was slapped so hard that he saw stars. He spun around on the spot, covered his red and swollen cheek, and protested incoherently. Before he could steady himself, Zhao Shimu stepped forward and kicked Xiao Lu in the chest, causing him to fall to the ground. The other servants of the Qin family also realized that the situation was not good at this time. Two of them immediately ran over and carefully helped Xiaolu up from the ground. The other one ran into the mansion in a panic. It seemed that he was going to report to Qin Shengling. "Find fault with your mother's leg." Zhao Shimu stared at Xiaolu, who was being helped up in front of him, and said coldly, "I didn't expect you to be so stubborn. You were one of those people who teased my son just now, weren't you? Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of Qin Shengling, you shameless be ****. Since there were two gold core stage masters behind him, Zhao Shimu's arrogance at this time was naturally more and more arrogant. He spoke with full confidence, but before he could beat up little six again, he was stopped by Zhao Xingxuan behind him. "Shimu, why are you wasting so much saliva?" Zhao Xingxuan glanced at Xiaolu indifferently and said expressionlessly, "This kind of ant-like servant, just kill him directly. What's there to say to him?" After saying that, a cold smile flashed across Zhao Xingxuan's mouth. He circulated the primordial qi in his body and covered it in his right palm. Gradually, it condensed into a huge crimson fireball, and then he suddenly threw it at where Xiaolu and the two servants were standing. Little Six and the others were scared out of their wits when they saw a ball of blazing flames suddenly bursting forth and smashing toward them with a ferocious murderous aura wrapped in it. They were just servants who usually sprinkled water and cleaned up in the family. How could they have ever seen such a scene? At this time, even if they wanted to escape, their legs were already so weak that they could not run. They knew that their lives were over today, so they could only close their eyes in despair and wait for the flame to devour them. Qi, seeing that the big fireball was about to touch Little Six and the others, a large basin of cold water suddenly fell from the sky, instantly extinguishing the giant fireball. Then, a coquettish cheer came from the top of the Qin family's gate. "Wow! Xiao Chang's husband is so amazing. Such a big fireball was easily extinguished by you. I, your elder sister, love you more and more. Oh, it's just a small matter. Isn't it common sense that water can extinguish fire? What's there to be surprised about?" Xiao Chen casually threw away the bucket in his hand and clapped his hands. Raising his head to look at the man and woman standing at the top of the gate, the black-robed old man's expression was somewhat solemn. He was bewildered. Water could extinguish a fire, but the fireball that Zhao Xingxuan threw just now was not an ordinary flame. It was a spell that was transformed from essence qi. Ordinary people couldn't extinguish it with water at all. Not to mention the fact that this fellow had grasped the timing so accurately, striking just as the flames were about to touch the three servants. Who were this man and woman? Could he be a guest invited by the Qin clan? Had they also reached the gold core stage? Xiao Chen stood at the top of the Qin clan's gate and looked down at Zhao Shimu and the others. With a serious expression, he lectured, "Old fellows down there. I see that you're not young anymore. Why did you come to someone else's house and play with fire? Don't you know that this is very dangerous? Didn't your teacher teach you not to play with fire? If you set the Qin clan on fire, can you afford to pay for it?" Listening to Xiao Chen's sarcasm, the murderous intent in Zhao Xingxuan's eyes disappeared. He stared at Xiao Chen and said coldly, "Who are you bastards? Could it be that you also want to stand up for the Qin clan? Quickly tell me your name. This old man doesn't kill nameless people." TSK, my wife. Do you think that old bastard down there has dementia?" Xiao Chen shook his head, casually pinched Hong Zhu's cheek, and said as if nothing had happened, "Didn't you just call out my name? This old guy actually pretended that he didn't hear me, and even asked me to tell my name. I think he must have forgotten to take his medicine before going out. The more he lives, the more muddled he becomes." In fact, when Zhao Shimu and the others arrived at the Qin clan's gate, Xiao Chen had already sensed them with his divine sense. He originally wanted to observe the strength of these people before making a decision, but the fireball thrown out by Zhao Xingxuan really surprised Xiao Chen. Seeing that Xiao Lu and the other two servants were about to lose their lives to Zhao Xingxuan's fireball, Xiaochen could no longer sit back and watch. He picked up a bucket of water beside him and quickly rushed over with Hongzhu, rescuing Xiao Lu and the others from Zhao Xingxuan's hands. However, ordinary cold water was naturally unable to extinguish an immortal cultivator's magic. Before Xiaochen splashed the water, he quietly added a bit of primordial qi into the water, allowing little Six and the rest to survive. Being pinched on the cheek by Xiaochen as if he was flirting with her, and hearing him call her wife intimately, Hongzhu felt as if a little deer was running around in his heart. However, Hongzhu did not show it on his face. He still had a smile on his face, and with a charming voice that could make any man go crazy, he softly reprimanded, "Oh, Xiaochang, my husband, you're wrong to say that. Isn't it fashionable to respect the old and cherish the young? Since we are young, we should be considerate of those old people who become more and more useless as they get older. Look at you, you're still so kind to the lonely old people." Xiaochen suddenly remembered a joke that had been very popular on the internet a while ago. He smiled and rubbed his chin, saying, "But you can't say it like that. We will also grow old sooner or later. The most important thing is our temperament." Hearing Xiaochen and Hongzhu ridiculing them, Zhao Xingxuan was immediately unable to restrain his anger. Ever since he returned to the Zhao family, he had spent every day being respected and worshipped by the younger generation. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Glaring coldly at Xiaochen and Hongzhu, Zhao Xingxuan condensed his yuan qi in his palms once more, and said in a sinister tone, "Umph. Two little juniors who overestimate their own capabilities actually dare to spout such nonsense. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being merciless." However, before Zhao Xingxuan could make a move, the black-robed old man stopped him and said in a low voice, "Brother Zhao, don't be in such a hurry to attack. These two people are a little strange." "What's wrong, Brother Guan? Did you notice someone lying in ambush nearby?" Zhao Xingxuan was currently burning with rage. Hearing this, he simply swept his eyes around, but did not discover any traces of an ambush. Chapter 1348. It wasn't an ambush. The black-robed old man first denied this statement. Then, he slowly took a step forward and patted Zhao Xingxuan's shoulder. He stared at Xiaochen and explained in a soft voice, "The fireball technique you threw out just now cannot be extinguished by ordinary water. However, that kid managed to do it. From this, it can be seen that he does have some ability. I think that we should still proceed with caution. Brother Guan, you're overestimating this adulterous couple too much." Zhao Xingxuan disagreed with the black-robed old man's words. Glaring at Xiaochen, he fiercely said, "I didn't use my full strength just now. As long as it's someone with a little bit of cultivation, they can easily dissolve it with their yuan qi. However, I won't make the same mistake a second time. With this next move, I will definitely make them die without a complete corpse." The black-robed old man still wanted to say something, but Zhao Xingxuan had already transformed the yuan qi in his hand into rapidly pulsating flames. He swung his palm at Xiaochen and Hongzhu, shouting, "Flaming heavenly fire rain." Following that shout, the fireballs in Zhao Xingxuan's palm were immediately released in a continuous stream. They streaked through the air, leaving streaks of scarlet trails in the air. With an indomitable momentum, they crazily attacked the place where Xiaochen and Hongzhu were standing. It seemed that he wanted to burn the two of them into charcoal in one move. Oh, although the momentum is not bad and can be given 4 points, it's a pity that its power is not worth mentioning. Negative points. However, Xiaochen did not pay any attention to the surging fireballs. Instead, he stretched his body and expressionlessly instructed, "Nethery, it's been a long time since I let you take a breather. Quickly come out and show that old fart what you're capable of. Let him understand what a true rain of fire is." "Understood." With a happy reply, the 9 underworld flame drilled out from Xiaochen's palm. It first swayed up and down for a while, as though it was doing a warm-up exercise. Under Hongzhu's curious gaze, the 9 underworlds flame instantly swallowed all the flames that were hurtling towards Xiao Chen with lightning speed. It swallowed them cleanly, leaving not a single one behind. Wow! Xiao Chang's husband, this fire is so great. Won't it choke after eating so many small fireballs? Hongzhu let out a delicate cry and couldn't help but ask in surprise. Of course not, it hasn't used its next move yet. Xiao Chen smiled, crossed his arms, and leisurely watched the fire of the underworld perform on its own. After the netherworld fire swallowed Zhao Xingxuan's flames, its body began to grow. Then, with a bang, it suddenly burst into hundreds of bluish-purple fireballs, surging towards Zhao Xingxuan's body. What the hell are these? Zhao Xingxuan was dumbfounded. He had been in the cultivation world for dozens of years, but he had never seen such a strange flame. When he saw the bluish-purple fireballs rushing towards him, Zhao Xingxuan cursed in his heart. He stomped his left foot on the ground and tried his best to dodge to the right. Only then did he manage to avoid the attack of the 9 underworld flame. However, when Zhao Xingxuan's robe was brushed by the flames, it immediately caught fire. Zhao Xingxuan made a prompt decision and directly cut off the corner of the robe. Before the piece of cloth could fall to the ground, it had already been burned to ashes and disappeared. Smelling the pungent burnt smell, the expression of the black-robed elder standing beside Zhao Xingxuan froze. He realized that the other party's strength was about the same as his, and that the Zhao family head would not be able to resist it alone. With this thought in mind, the black-robed elder hurriedly used his movement technique. On one hand, he carefully avoided the bluish-purple flames, and on the other hand, he stared at Xiao Chen. He planned to find an opportunity to kill him and use this opportunity to save Zhao Xingxuan. Zhao Shimu, who was beside him, was also quite frightened. Although he was also an immortal cultivator, his strength was far inferior to Zhao Xingxuan and the black-robed elder. Seeing this, he had no other way to deal with it. He could only roll on the ground a few times and avoid the flames in a very sorry state. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's main target was not him, so it was not that difficult for Zhao Shimu to avoid it. Damn it, this kid is a bit troublesome. Zhao Xingxuan finally managed to stand firm. He also knew that he had met a tough opponent today. His mind turned quickly, and he could no longer care about fighting alone. He immediately called for the black-robed elder and prepared to attack Xiao Chen together with him. Brother Guan, it seems that we have to work together too. Before Zhao Xingxuan could finish his sentence, he suddenly felt a scorching sensation coming from behind him that was getting closer and closer. Zhao Shimu, who had rolled far away, also realized that the situation was not good. The bluish-purple flames seemed to have a consciousness of their own. After circling around, they turned around and swarmed towards Zhao Xingxuan again. Seeing this scene, Zhao Shimu's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He hurriedly shouted at the top of his lungs, "Grand Elder Zhao, get out of the way. Those fireballs are coming back again." F***CK. Zhao Xingxuan did not dare to look back at the situation. He could already feel that one of the bluish-purple fireballs had already touched the clothes on his back. Frightened out of his wits, he immediately rushed forward and shrunk his body, instantly taking off his outer clothes. Then, he reached out and pulled the black-robed elder who was standing in front of him behind him. The black-robed elder had not expected Zhao Xingxuan to make such a move. He had always thought that the fireballs would not return after flying away. At this time, he was so focused on how to deal with Xiao Chen that he did not notice the movement behind him. It was only when the black-robed elder was forced to stand behind Zhao Xingxuan and felt the first fireball explode on his back did his expression change dramatically. He cried out in his heart that his life was over. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and raised his hands to cover Hongzhu's ears. Hongzhu did not know what was going on at first, but she immediately understood. Boom boom boom. As the flames of the 9 underworlds continued to explode on the black-robed elder's back, deafening explosions instantly resounded through the sky. The shock waves from the explosions caused dust to fly everywhere and smoke to fill the air. It was completely impossible to see what was happening at the center of the explosion. The explosions continued for a long time before the continuous sounds of gunfire disappeared. The flames of the 9 underworlds once again gathered into a ball and returned to Xiaochen. After proudly waving it a few times, Xiaochen took it back. The entire scene was completely silent. Nothing could be seen except for the thick dust and smoke, and not even the slightest sound could be heard. Xiaochen and Hongzhu waited for a while longer before the smoke gradually dissipated. As gusts of wind swept past the center of the explosion, the dust that continued to fill the air was finally completely blown away. At the center of the explosion, there was only a tattered piece of cloth swaying in the wind, trembling as it circled back and forth in the air. There was only a small charred bag on the ground. The black-robed elder had long since disappeared. It was obvious that he had been blown to pieces by the flames of the 9 underworlds. Chapter 1349. At this time, Qin Shengling and Qin Tao finally arrived at the scene. The two of them looked at the potholes on the ground outside the door and could not help but look at each other in confusion. Based on the loud explosion just now and the scene in front of them, Qin Shengling speculated that a fierce battle and explosion had just taken place here. Unfortunately, there was nothing left at the scene. As for who the unlucky guy who was blown up was, there was no way of knowing. Not bad, killing monsters dropped treasures. It seems that the immortal cultivation world is indeed a good place. Xiaochen grinned and let go of the hand that was covering Hongzhu's ear. He turned around and gently hugged her slender waist. Then, he jumped down from the top of the gate and walked towards the charred bag with light steps. "Husband Xiaochang, that old man in black looks like he was killed by your explosion. However, didn't the Zhao family send 3 people here just now? Where did the other 2 go? Could it be that they were also hit by those fireballs and disappeared into thin air?" Hongzhu leaned against Xiaochen's side and looked around, but did not see Zhao Shimu and Zhao Xingxuan. She could not help but ask in confusion. "Oh, they were blown away by the shockwave of the explosion just now. I'm guessing that they've already fled back to the Zhao clan," Xiaochen said casually. He then released Hongzhu and bent over to pick up the charred bag on the ground. Although the moment the flames of the underworld exploded, dust filled the sky, Xiaochen's divine sense was outstanding. He could clearly see that after Zhao Xingxuan used the old man in black as a shield, he and Zhao Shimu were both pushed several meters away by the powerful shock wave and fell to the ground together. After stumbling to their feet, the two of them were scared out of their wits by the series of explosions. Taking advantage of the smoke and fog, when no one could see them, they quickly slipped away. Hongzhu blinked his eyes. He was still a little reluctant to part with Xiaochen's broad chest. However, when he saw Xiaochen pick up the bag, he asked with some interest, "Quick, open it and take a look. What's inside?" Xiaochen opened it and found that there were only some spiritual crystals inside. He shrugged his shoulders in disdain and said, "It seems that the Zhao family is not very rich. I can't believe this old guy only brought so few spiritual crystals with him. It's not even enough to pay for my appearance fee. Come on, I think you've been with Tian Sour for too long. You've been infected by her money grubber aura. No matter what you do, you have to prioritize money." Hongzhu chuckled as he teased, "As the saying goes, men die in pursuit of wealth, and birds die in pursuit of food. That's probably referring to people like you." That being said, Hongzhu's eyes were also fixed on the spirit crystals in the bag, his pupils rapidly widening. It was obvious that he was extremely tempted by these spirit crystals. "Look at what you're saying, as if you're not greedy." When Xiaochen saw Hongzhu's appearance, he helplessly shook his head, rolled his eyes, and said, "Look at yourself, your eyeballs are about to fall into your pockets." All right, I'll let you keep it." After saying that, Xiaochen stuffed the bag into Hongzhu's hands. He, you're smart. Hongzhu happily accepted the bag and casually praised Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen saw Hongzhu's money-grubber appearance, he helplessly nodded his head and said, "You're just like a well-fed man who doesn't know the hunger of a starving man. I remember that in the past, for the sake of cultivation, I had to spend a lot of money at Little Hong's pharmacy because of you. Fortunately, my luck is pretty good. Every time, someone would take the initiative to give me money. Otherwise, I might have been sleeping on the streets." Hongzhu's eyes curved into crescents as he flirtatiously placed his hand on Xiao Chen's shoulder and said, "Aya, since we're already an old married couple, your money is my money, and my money is still my money. What's the difference?" "Of course there is." Xiao Chen pursed his lips and was about to retort when Qin Shengling came over. "Immortal Xiao, are you all right?" Qin Shengling looked Xiao Chen and Hongzhu up and down. When he saw that neither of them had any injuries, he slightly relaxed and continued, "Tao Tian and I rushed over as soon as we received the news, but we were still a step too late. Those scum of the Zhao family actually dared to seek revenge after failing to cause trouble. They're a bit too brazen. They really think that Yanlin town is their territory. I'm fine. 3 people from the Zhao family came just now. One of them is called Zhao Shi or something. His strength is rather low, so I didn't pay attention." Xiao Chen scratched his head and said indifferently, "Zhao Shi? Zhao Shimu?" Qin Shengling frowned and said, "He's the current young patriarch of the Zhao family, and also Zhao Wending's father. It seems that he has personally come to seek justice for his son. Oh, but he doesn't seem to have time to say anything." Xiao Chen casually spread his hands and said calmly, "Because the other 2 were Golden Core experts. I killed one of them, and the remaining 2 ran away in fear." Golden Core expert. Qin Tao Tian, who was standing next to Qin Shengling, almost stuttered. He looked at Xiao Chen with extreme shock in his eyes. In Qin Taotian's eyes, the Golden Core stage was already an unreachable existence. His grandfather had stayed at the Foundation establishment stage for so long and had yet to break through to the next stage. In the end, Xiao Chen could actually kill someone so casually. Just how high was this person's cultivation? At this moment, Qin Shengling was also stunned on the spot. He only reacted after a long time, and his attitude towards Xiao Chen became even more respectful. He flattered Xiao Chen to the extreme, almost treating him as a god. Qin Shengling thought more than Qin Tao Tian. If it was just a Golden Core stage, Xiao Chen could kill him, but the Zhao family had 2 Golden Core stage experts this time. Under the pincer attack of 2 experts, not only did Xiao Chen casually kill one of them, but he was also able to escape unscathed and scare the other away. Was this something an ordinary expert could do? Therefore, Qin Shengling's attitude towards Xiao Chen had become more humble. After all, there was such an unfathomable expert in the Qin family. Even if he only stood up for the Qin family once, it was enough to deter all the families and people in Yanlin town. That bullshit Zhao family was nothing at all. Xiao Chen had heard a lot of similar flattery, so he didn't take it to heart at all. He didn't act high and mighty either. He just waved his hand and said humbly that it was nothing. With Xiao Chen's cultivation, killing a Golden Core stage expert was just like taking something out of his pocket. There was really nothing to show off. Qin Shengling and Qin Tao Tian saw Xiao Chen's attitude in their eyes. They couldn't help but be more respectful to him. They almost bowed down to the ground. Chapter 1350. Looking at the tragic scene of the explosion, Xiao Chen had another thought in his mind. It was a thought that had been lingering in his mind ever since he came to the immortal cultivation world. Elder Heaven Ancestor, I've discovered that these fellows in the immortal cultivation world have a problem. They seem to like to rely on spells and strange props and weapons to attack their enemies. After pondering for a while, Xiao Chen asked directly in his sea of consciousness, "Do you think I should get a magical weapon as well?" If I encounter an enemy of equal strength, I won't be at a disadvantage because I'm unarmed. You're really acting dumb. Do you think magical weapons are like cabbages and carrots that can be found everywhere? Elder Heaven Ancestor's tone was very helpless. Obtaining a suitable weapon is 100 times more difficult than gathering those rare treasures of heaven and earth. Then I have to make some plans first. If I'm not careful and encounter a real expert, it will be too late when I'm beaten to a pulp. Xiaofan scratched his head and said somewhat gloomily. Don't think about this for now. If the weapon you obtain does not match your cultivation method and attribute, you will not be able to display the strongest effect. Elder Heaven Ancestor explained slowly. So for you, it is more practical to work hard to improve your cultivation. That's right, what kind of attribute do I have? In any case, I can be considered as your proud disciple. Why have I never heard you mention it? Hearing Elder Heaven Ancestor's words, Xiaofan couldn't help but ask in confusion. He had never been very clear about the issue of attributes. Elder Heaven Ancestor also never explained it to him. So at this time, he was completely confused. Oh, you have 5 attributes. But this is not important. In a legendary battle between experts, it has always been about speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, as well as clear judgment, keen adaptability, and absolute strength. If your cultivation is enough to suppress your opponent, then it doesn't matter which attribute you have. Elder Heaven Ancestor answered casually. What the hell? No attributes, this is too much. Xiaofan secretly rolled his eyes. He could not help but feel a headache coming on. He did not expect that after cultivating for so long, his body did not have any attributes at all. He had been looking forward to it for so long, really. Xiaofan, are you stupid? The Elder Heaven Ancestor was also speechless at Xiaofan's failure to meet his expectations. He scolded, even if your ears aren't sharp and you can't even hear 5 and nothing clearly, you should understand that you are now proficient in casting spells such as Fireball, Water Ball, Wind Ball, Lightning Ball, and so on, right? Elder Heaven Ancestor, you mean? Xiaofan immediately woke up from his listless state and suddenly realized. Yes. You have basically mastered all the attributes now. The Elder Heaven Ancestor replied impatiently, even if you don't have any attributes, you still have the fire of the underworld and little demon and to help you. If you really can't do it, you can still use the flying sword as a weapon. Why bother with those useless things? Aren't you asking for trouble? Oh, so that's how it is. You scared this baby to death. Xiaofan pretended to pat his chest with lingering fear. He thought for a while and added, but if I encounter a suitable weapon, Elder Heaven Ancestor, you still have to remind me. I always feel that using the flying sword is not convenient enough. Moreover, this young master is so elegant and handsome. Using a sword is too ordinary and not domineering at all. Although he was already invincible in Yanlin Town, this was only the most remote corner of the entire immortal cultivation world. Xiaofan always felt that when he went to look for Cheng Menjing and the others, the road to the center of the immortal cultivation world would definitely be full of experts and dangers everywhere. Therefore, he had to prepare 1 or 2 self-defense treasures in advance. We'll talk about it later. In fact, I think you're very good at playing cheap. It suits your image very well. As long as you can diligently study it, the experts in the immortal cultivation world will sooner or later submit to your cheap tricks. The Elder Heaven Ancestor had long been accustomed to Xiaofan's arrogant temperament. He casually ridiculed him and then said no more. Naturally, Xiaofan could hear the hidden meaning in the Elder Heaven Ancestor's words. However, he was completely helpless against this master. He could only embarrassedly touch his nose and withdraw his thoughts. He pulled Hongzhu's hand and slowly walked into the mansion under the reverent gazes of the Qin family members. On the other side of Yanlin Town, in a secret room in the Zhao family's rear garden, Zhao Xingxuan was sitting paralyzed on a wooden armchair with a deathly pale face. His whole body was motionless, as if he had not yet recovered from the violent explosion. Zhao Shimu was so frightened that his legs were trembling. He tightly shut his mouth and silently stood beside Zhao Xingxuan, cautiously listening to the movements outside the secret room. He was afraid that the Qin family would take advantage of this opportunity to retaliate against the Zhao family. After a long time, Zhao Xingxuan let out a deep breath and eased the depression and fear that filled his stomach. Unexpected, truly unexpected. Zhao Xingxuan muttered to himself with a face full of emotion, such a powerful expert has actually appeared in the Qin family. Looking at that guy's appearance, his strength is at least on par with mine. If I really had to face him head-on, would only have a 50-50 chance of winning, and it is very likely that I would be seriously injured. Great-grandfather, you are currently the only pillar of the Zhao family. The Zhao family cannot do without you. Zhao Shimu's face was ashen as he said this while trembling. In his heart, he prayed that Zhao Xingxuan would not be impulsive and fight that guy again. Zhao Xingxuan glared at him and said coldly, I'm just evaluating the strength of that expert from the Qin family. It doesn't mean that I want to fight him again. I'm not that old and muddle-headed yet. Zhao Shimu let out a light sigh and did not dare to reply. He carefully changed the topic and said, originally, I thought that the gold core stage sinecure would be enough to destroy the Qin family in one fell swoop. In the end, even he is dead. The Qin family will definitely not let this go. Great-grandfather, what do you think we should do next? Zhao Xingxuan heavily knocked on the table and said angrily with a frown, what should we do? Immediately send a message to the Immortal Cultivators' Chamber of Commerce and tell them about Brother Guan's death. Then, tell them to come and deal with it. Yes, yes, yes. How could I have forgotten about this? Zhao Shimu quickly nodded and was about to turn around to leave when he was stopped by Zhao Xingxuan. Wait. Zhao Xingxuan called out to Zhao Shimu and pondered for a moment before saying, you should bring the tools to the secret room. I will communicate with them. You speak incoherently and it will not be good if they misunderstand you. Although Zhao Shimu was somewhat puzzled, he still nodded and left the secret room to make preparations. Chapter 1351. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan wasn't afraid that Zhao Shimu wouldn't explain things clearly. Rather, he was afraid that Zhao Shimu would explain things too clearly. If the people from the Cultivation Chamber of Commerce knew that Brother Guan had died because of him, the Zhao family would definitely be implicated. Not long after, Zhao Shimu finished preparing the tools. He first brought back a basin of water, then took out a special sound-transmitting talisman and soaked it in the water. Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu both stared at the sound-transmitting talisman. Not long after it was soaked in the water, it gradually melted and disappeared. A few bubbles appeared in the wooden basin, then a strange ripple appeared, circling back and forth. In fact, in the cultivation world, if people wanted to communicate with each other over a long distance, they could only rely on sound-transmitting talismans. If it was only a short communication of a few words, he only needed to burn the voice transmission talisman and recite the message he wanted to transmit. However, if he wanted to transmit a long message that required both parties to converse, he would have to soak the voice transmission talisman in water and use the vibrations generated by the water to communicate for a long time. Hello, welcome to the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. For Mandarin, please lightly tap the water surface once. For English service, please press 3. Not long after, the sound of a woman's voice suddenly sounded from the wooden basin. However, there were only ripples on the surface of the water, and no reflections could be seen. Fortunately, people in the cultivation world were already used to this kind of scene. If people in the secular world saw this, they would probably think that it was a ghost. In fact, it was very simple. The sound-transmitting talisman was actually equivalent to a telephone in the secular world. The Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. What the hell is this name? Inexplicable. Zhao Xingxuan muttered to himself and stretched out his finger to press the water surface. Although he had communicated with this Chamber of Commerce several times, Zhao Xingxuan always felt a little strange every time he heard the name. Hello, you are a low-level member of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to your call. If you require manual service, please tap the water surface once. If you require a transfer to the Regional Marketing Director, please tap the water surface twice. After Zhao Xingxuan pressed the water surface, a few more bubbles appeared, and the woman's voice came out from the wooden basin again. Damn, why is it so troublesome? Zhao Xingxuan was a little impatient, but he suppressed his irritation and pressed on the surface of the water twice. He frowned and waited quietly for a response. In the past, Zhao Xingxuan had simply used the method of burning the sound-transmitting talisman to communicate with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. This was the first time that he had to use a long communication method. He didn't expect it to be so complicated. When Zhao Xingxuan finished pressing twice, a few fist-sized bubbles appeared at the bottom of the wooden basin, floating on the surface of the water without bursting. After waiting for a while, a passionate man's voice came from the wooden basin. Hello, Mr. Zhao, how are you? Are you satisfied with the gold core stage expert that I sent to you previously? If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Our Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce will promptly deal with the after-sales issues for you. Director Liu. Director, this old man has encountered some trouble here. The gold core stage expert that you sent has been killed. The person who killed him is someone from the Qin family of Yanlin Town. You can send someone to investigate, and then it's best if you can send us an expert as reinforcements. Don't worry, spirit crystals aren't a problem. Zhao Xingxuan shouted a little awkwardly at the wooden basin. Zhao Xingxuan's hoarse voice looked very funny, but Zhao Shimu, who was standing on the side, didn't have the mood to laugh. Instead, he stared at the wooden basin. After Zhao Xingxuan finished shouting, a few more bubbles formed on the surface of the water, and then gradually sank into the wooden basin, disappearing into thin air. Are you kidding me? You guys are too careless. You didn't even figure out the strength of the other party, and you rashly sent a gold core stage expert to fight with the other party? This time, the speed at which the bubbles appeared was very fast, and Director Liu's loud questioning voice came out. That. Director Liu, don't be angry. We didn't know that the other party still had a trick up their sleeves, so we accidentally fell into their trap. Zhao Shimu was afraid that Zhao Xingxuan would flare up, so he hurriedly shouted at the water basin before him. Accidentally? Is this something that can be solved by saying accidentally? If this situation is known by the sect behind the expert, do you think that you can still have a good life? Director Liu's voice was very ear-piercing, and it was obvious that he was already angry. Zhao Shimu's forehead was sweating, and he hurriedly comforted the wooden basin. Director Liu, didn't we immediately contact you when there was a problem? I hope that you can put in a few good words for us in front of the sect. It would be best if you can cover up this matter. Humph. Our Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce is most particular about integrity. We will not do things that are hypocritical. Director Liu's voice was very arrogant, and it seemed that he was very disdainful of the Zhao family. Director Liu, the urgent matter at hand is to trouble your Chamber of Commerce to send us a stronger expert. Zhao Shimu saw that this path was not going to work, so he simply changed the topic. If the expert that you send is at the peak of the gold core stage or the nascent soul stage, that would be the best. I say, what kind of good things are you thinking? With your current membership level, you do not meet the requirements to send a nascent soul stage expert. Director Liu was very dissatisfied, and he reprimanded, and because of your mistake this time, even if we send an expert at the peak of the gold core stage, we will have to reconsider. This Director Liu was also a shrewd person. Although sending an expert over could earn more spirit crystals for the Chamber of Commerce, and he could also get a lot of commission, he would not act blindly. Otherwise, if it was found out that he had broken the rules, it would not be good if he was fired. You. Zhao Xingxuan was extremely unhappy with Director Lu's arrogant attitude, and he heavily slammed the table. Just as he was about to open his mouth to scold the other party, he was pulled back by Zhao Shimu. Great-grandfather, please calm down, don't cause trouble with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce. Cold sweat dripped down Zhao Shimu's back, and he hurriedly said in a low voice, although the name of their Chamber of Commerce is a little strange, I heard that they have relations with many sects and families in the immortal cultivation world. Our Zhao family is only a small family in a remote place, we simply cannot afford to offend them. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan also knew what Zhao Shimu had said, but he had not been able to suppress his anger just now. Now that he had been stopped, he no longer flared up. He forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart, coldly snorted, picked up the teacup on the table, and drank it in one gulp. Then, he gritted his teeth and stared at the wooden basin, waiting for the other party's reply. Chapter 1352. Zhao Shimu pacified Zhao Xingxuan with great difficulty, then looked at the wooden basin anxiously. Seeing that there was no response from Director Lu, as if he hadn't heard Zhao Taigong's anger, he couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. Director Lu pondered for a moment, then said unhurriedly, how about this, I'll first report the situation to the higher-ups, then immediately establish an investigation team to go to Yanlin town to investigate the cause of death of the Gold Core stage expert, so as to give his sect an explanation. Okay, then thank you, Director Lu. We will respectfully welcome the arrival of the investigation team. Zhao Shimu immediately flattered respectfully, not taking his words to heart. Anyway, no matter how they investigated, Senior Guan was killed by the Qin family. At most, the Zhao family would just pay some funeral expenses. As long as the sect behind Senior Guan was a little reasonable, they wouldn't vent their anger on the Zhao family. Zhao Xingxuan's expression was a little subtle. Although Brother Guan was killed by the Qin family, in the end, he was the one who dragged him out to be a scapegoat. If this matter was investigated by the Chamber of Commerce, no, it definitely wouldn't. At that time, the smoke of the explosion was everywhere, and nothing could be seen clearly. There was absolutely no one who would know what had happened. Moreover, at that time, only Zhao Shimu and the Qin family were present. As long as Zhao Shimu instructed him, he definitely wouldn't go out and talk nonsense. Moreover, the Qin family was the culprit who killed Brother Guan. Even if he pointed out Zhao Xingxuan, no one would listen to him. While Zhao Xingxuan was thinking intensely, Director Lu's words came to an end. As for the matter of dealing with your enemy, wait for our Chamber of Commerce to investigate all the reasons, then we will make plans. This time, let's leave it at that. After saying this, the sound transmission bubble slowly sank and disappeared at the bottom of the basin. The ripples in the wooden basin then slowly dissipated, returning to calmness. It seemed that Director Lu had already cancelled the call and was busy dealing with other matters. Shimu, I used to train outside, so I don't know much about these secular things. Do you know the origin of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce? I've never seen or heard of such an attitude to treat customers. Zhao Xingxuan withdrew his thoughts and glared at the wooden basin. Zhao Xingxuan didn't have much contact with the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce in the past, so he wasn't very clear about its background. At this time, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. What kind of attitude does this Chamber of Commerce have when doing business? If they were all as tough as Director Lu, sooner or later, they would have to close down. Well, I'm not too sure myself. I only know that they're playing at a pretty high level. Zhao Shimu scratched his head and tried hard to recall the rumors he had heard before. I heard that the Immortal Cultivators Chamber of Commerce is extremely extensive. Not only do they have sufficient spirit crystal resources, they also provide various cultivators for rent. Their branches are spread all over the various counties of the immortal cultivation world. They are very powerful. Zhao Shimu only had a smattering of knowledge about this strange chamber of commerce. Most of what he knew came from hearsay. Zhao Xingxuan rubbed his chin and nodded, then asked, "From what you said, this immortal cultivation chamber of commerce does seem to have some power. How did they find our Zhao family?" "Oh, around this time last year, there was a chamber of commerce's salesman. That's how they introduced themselves. They came to the Zhao family to promote some services of their chamber of commerce." Zhao Shimu blinked his eyes and answered honestly. "Services? Are they renting out those high-level cultivators?" "Brother Guan, did you rent them at that time?" Zhao Xingxuan asked in surprise. He only knew that Brother Guan came from the immortal cultivators' chamber of commerce and served as a guardian of the Zhao family. He didn't know that there was such a thing. Yes. At that time, the salesman said that the Chamber of Commerce was in a business expansion period. If you applied for a membership, you could top up 100 spirit crystals and get 100 spirit crystals as a bonus. In short, it was quite a good deal. So, I applied for it. Senior Guan was also sent here at that time. Zhao Shimu nodded. In fact, he had been fooled and confused at that time. He did the business in a daze and couldn't remember it clearly. What nonsense is this? Zhao Xingxuan was confused. He frowned and waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. Let's wait for the investigation team to come and deal with it. Since that Chamber of Commerce has the ability to rent out these gold core stage experts and claim that they have nascent soul stage experts, it shouldn't be a big problem for them to deal with such a small matter. Let's not worry about it. The discussion about the immortal cultivators' Chamber of Commerce came to an end. The two of them discussed some related matters. They felt that the Zhao family shouldn't be too arrogant recently, especially when facing the Qin family. They should endure it as much as they could and wait for the investigation team to solve everything. Zhao Xingxuan thought that he could spend more spirit crystals to bribe the investigation team and put all the blame on the Qin family. Then, his family would have nothing to do with it. After 2 days of peace, 3 young men came to the Zhao clan. They were all dressed in neat uniforms with strange red and white symbols pasted on their chests. The leader was a shrewd man. After informing the servants, the 3 of them waited at the door for a while. Not long after, Zhao Shimu opened the door and walked out. He asked in a dignified manner, "Who is looking for me?" Seeing the master of the Zhao family, the shrewd man smiled faintly. He took out a rectangular white jade token from his bosom and waved it in front of Zhao Shimu. "Oh, you are from the Immortal Cultivators' Chamber of Commerce?" Zhao Shimu looked at the white jade token, then looked up at the familiar symbol on the young man's chest, and suddenly came to a realization. He hurriedly welcomed them into the Zhao manor, then ordered the servants to quickly invite Zhao Xingxuan over. Seeing that Zhao Shimu had confirmed his identity, Lu Huaishui put the white jade token back into his bosom and introduced himself. "Hello, Mr. Zhao. This is my business card. I am Lu Huaishui, the marketing director of the Immortal Cultivators' Chamber of Commerce. You can call me Xiao Lu. The 2 people behind me are my right-hand men and bodyguards. Sorry for intruding today. It's no trouble at all. We have been waiting for you to come." Zhao Shimu invited Lu Huaishui to the living room with a smile and waved his hand. "Hee, Mr. Zhao, you are too polite." Lu Huaishui smiled faintly and went straight to the point. "Today, we have come to your residence to disturb you because we have received orders from the higher-ups to investigate the Golden Core stage expert, Guan Weikai, who died in the line of duty a few days ago. We hope that Mr. Zhao can take the initiative to cooperate with our work." Chapter 1353. No problem, just tell me how you need me to cooperate. Zhao Shimu personally poured tea for Lu Huaishui, then asked the other 2 people to sit down and said with a smile. "Then I'll have to trouble Mr. Zhao to explain the situation at that time and the cause and effect." I need to make a record here. Lu Huaishui tilted his head slightly, and one of the bodyguards immediately took out a book and put on a posture of preparing to record. Okay, it's like this. A few days ago, when a direct descendant of our family went out, he accidentally encountered the Qin family in this town and was humiliated for no reason. So we wanted Senior Guan to teach them a lesson and let the Qin family suffer a little, but we didn't expect. Zhao Shimu was stunned, then he sat down and described the situation at that time without missing a word. However, Zhao Shimu wasn't a fool. Naturally, he wouldn't say that Zhao Xingxuan had used Guan Weikai as a shield. He would only say that the Qin family's expert had focused all his spells on Guan Weikai, causing him to die from the explosion. This was also the result of the discussion between Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu. They were prepared to insist that it was the Qin family who killed Guan Weikai. Anyway, Guan Weikai was already dead, so they could say whatever they wanted. Shimu, how is the investigation going? After Zhao Shimu finished speaking, before Lu Huaishui could speak, Zhao Xingxuan walked out from behind the screen. In fact, Zhao Xingxuan had already arrived, but he didn't want to show up so early, so he waited for Zhao Shimu to finish explaining the situation before coming out slowly. Zhao Shimu secretly gave Zhao Xingxuan a look, then he stood up and pointed at Lu Huaishui and said, reporting to great-grandfather, "This is Lu Huaishui, Director Lu of the Dada Immortal Chamber of Commerce. He came to investigate the situation. I just told him how Senior Guan was killed by Xiao Chang, and you came over. He hasn't made any conclusions yet. Mr. Zhao, may I know who this old man is?" Lu Huaishui saw an old man suddenly appear, and he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He also stood up and asked politely. Upon seeing this, Zhao Shimu quickly said, "Oh, Director Lu, this is my great-grandfather, Zhao Xingxuan. He is also an expert in the gold core stage. When Senior Guan was killed, he saw it with his own eyes." "I see. Hello, old Mr. Zhao, I also have some questions to ask you." Lu Huaishui's eyes flashed and he smiled. "Hehe, the younger generation will surpass us in time. Jianghu is your world now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As long as this old man knows, I will definitely answer." Zhao Xingxuan faintly smiled as he stroked his beard. Lu Huaishui bowed slightly, then asked, "According to Mr. Zhao Shimu's testimony, Guan Weikai from our Chamber of Commerce was killed by an expert from the Qin clan called Xiao Chang, right? I wonder how strong this Xiao Chang is." "Oh, according to my many years of experience in the immortal cultivation world, this Xiao Chang might be at the golden core perfection stage." Zhao Xingxuan pretended to ponder for a while before replying cautiously. Lu Huaishui's expression had a hint of suspicion, but he still continued to ask politely, "Then why would the Qin clan humiliate your clan's disciple for no reason? Did your two clans have similar conflicts in the past?" Although after listening to Zhao Shimu's description, the ins and outs of this matter were already very clear, Lu Huaishui felt that it was definitely not that simple. Thus, he wanted to thoroughly investigate the matter before making his own judgment. Zhao Xingxuan had lived for so many years and was a sly fox. Naturally, he could see Lu Huaishui's doubts, but he didn't reveal anything. He only replied in a watertight manner, "The Zhao clan and the Qin clan naturally have grievances. You just have to casually go to the town and ask around, and you will know the truth." "Oh. I wonder if old Mr. Zhao can spare me the trouble of doing this and tell me directly? It will also save me the trouble of bothering the residents of your town. Thank you very much." Lu Huaishui smiled slightly and followed up with a question. Zhao Xingxuan's face flashed with anger, but he still held it in and waved his hand, saying, "In fact, it is very simple. It is nothing more than a conflict caused by some related interests. For your Chamber of Commerce, you should have long been accustomed to it, right?" "Hehe, that's good." Seeing that the conversation had reached this point, Lu Huaishui no longer pressed. Instead, he pondered for a moment and muttered to himself, an expert at the peak of the gold core stage. I didn't expect such a powerful person to exist in such a remote town at the edge of the immortal cultivation world. It seems that there is still something fishy about this matter. Ignoring Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu who were staring at him, Lu Huaishui reached out and snapped his fingers at the bodyguards behind him. He casually picked up the teacup on the table, took a sip of tea, and even shook his head to savor it. Among the two bodyguards behind him, one of them was recording the conversation between them just now. The other bodyguard saw Lu Huaishui's movements and immediately opened the leather bag he had been holding, then took out a document and a pen from it, took a few steps forward, and respectfully placed them on the table in front of Lu Huaishui, then retreated to his original position behind Lu Huaishui. Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu looked at each other, thinking that this marketing director was quite arrogant. Moreover, the two bodyguards behind him were very reserved, and their bodies were tense and vigilant at all times. They didn't seem to be good people either. According to Zhao Xingxuan's observation, he estimated that these two bodyguards were also experts at the gold core stage. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. It seemed that although this immortal cultivation chamber of commerce didn't have a good name, it really had many capable people. Even the bodyguards were at the gold core stage. It could be seen how powerful it was. Lu Huaishui picked up the pen on the table and quickly spun it a few times in his hand. He used his other hand to open the second page of the contract and then used the pen to draw a thick line at the bottom of the contract. He picked up the contract and handed it to Zhao Shimu. Mr. Zhao, the lease contract of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, I presume you have already understood the contents of it? Lu Huaishui asked Zhao Shimu with a smile. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Zhao Shimu had a bad premonition. He didn't dare to look down at the contract in front of him and hesitantly opened his mouth to speak. Knocking on the table, Lu Huaishui raised his chin and indifferently said, according to the contract, if Party A, that is, your Zhao family, during the period of renting the experts provided by Party B's Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, because of personal grievances, the experts were involved in a dispute, resulting in the death of the experts, then Party A should compensate Party B for the losses of 10 times the rental amount. Chapter 1354. 10 times? But. Zhao Shimu was dumbfounded. He stammered for a long time without being able to say anything. How many spiritual crystals did he spend to hire Guan Weikai? Yes, 10 times. At that time, the Zhao family rented Guan Weikai for 1,000 spiritual crystals. So now, you have to pay 10 times that amount. That's a total of 10,000 spiritual crystals. Take a look at the terms yourself. Lu Huaishui said calmly as he pointed at the clause that he had marked out. Zhao Shimu's face turned red. He looked like a goose that had been strangled by the neck. He lowered his head and read the terms on the contract. When Zhao Shimu was signing the contract, he was fooled by the salesperson who had come to do the promotion. He only knew that he would be able to take advantage of the contract if he signed it. He did not read the content of the contract carefully. Now that he had read the clause that had been marked out, he immediately regretted it. What? 10,000 spiritual crystals. While Zhao Shimu was cursing his bad luck, Zhao Xingxuan could not take it anymore. He slammed the table and shouted angrily, outrageous. Brother Guan was obviously beaten to death by the Qin family. Instead of looking for trouble with them, why are you asking us for compensation? Furthermore, you are asking us for so many spiritual crystals. Do you really think that the Zhao family is weak and can be bullied easily? After threatening Lu Huaishui, Zhao Xingxuan crushed the cup in his hand into powder. He immediately revealed his cultivation of level 6 of the golden core stage. He stared coldly at Lu Huaishui like a lion that was about to devour its prey. Hee, old Mr. Zhao, don't we all come out to do business for money? Why do we have to hurt each other's friendship for a few spiritual crystals? Lu Huaishui said calmly, as if he did not feel Zhao Xingxuan's killing intent. He stared at the mahogany table in front of him without moving an inch. Zhao Xingxuan thought that Lu Huaishui lowered his head because he did not dare to look at him. His aura rose and he said fiercely, "Cut the crap. Either you go to the Qin family and ask for the 10,000 spiritual crystals, or you leave this place immediately." "Old Mr. Zhao, are you joking?" Lu Huaishui finally raised his head and glanced at Zhao Xingxuan. A trace of hostility flashed between his brows. He snapped his fingers again and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. He slowly said, "Besides, do you really think that the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce is afraid of a mere Zhao family?" As soon as he finished speaking, the two bodyguards behind Lu Huaishui immediately rushed forward and stood in front of him. At the same time, their bodies trembled and a majestic yuan qi covered their bodies. One of them was an expert at the Golden Core stage and the other had already reached the half-step nascent soul stage. Feeling the ferocious pressure pressing down on him like a towering mountain, Zhao Xingxuan's expression changed drastically. Only now did he realize that he had underestimated the other party's strength. Seeing that the situation was so unfavorable to him, Zhao Xingxuan did not dare to act rashly. He could only clench his fists in hatred, snort coldly and grit his teeth as he took a step back. Director Lu, let's talk this over." Cold sweat dripped down Zhao Shimu's forehead as he explained with difficulty, "It's not that the Zhao family is unwilling to compensate, but 10,000 spirit crystals is too much. Furthermore, our great-uncle was right. Senior Guan was indeed killed by Xiao Chang. You can investigate this matter and find out. You can't just punish us and let the culprit go, right?" Zhao Shimu's expression was very helpless. After all, the Zhao family's annual income was only 20,000 to 30,000 spirit crystals. They would have to fork out more than half of that. Not only would they be strapped for cash, but the living expenses of this large family would also be a problem. The two of you don't have to be so afraid. I haven't finished speaking." Seeing Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu's fierce and then timid expressions, Lu Huaishui was very pleased. He smiled and said, "Mr. Zhao, I guess you didn't read the additional terms in the contract, right?" I really didn't read it." Zhao Shimu hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. He felt uneasy. Could it be that the additional terms required more compensation? "That's right." Lu Huaishui had a subtle smile on his face as he deliberately paused for a moment. When Zhao Xingxuan and Zhao Shimu were at their most nervous, he slowly said, "The additional terms mention that if the expert rented by Party A is killed by someone else due to his lack of strength, then Party A only needs to pay 50% of the compensation, and the rest will be paid by the killer. So, the Zhao family only needs to pay 5,000 spirit crystals." Zhao Shimu couldn't be bothered to reprimand Lu Huaishui, who was smiling like a clown. He grabbed the contract on the table and immediately flipped through it. On the last page of the contract, Zhao Shimu found this clause. He finally let out a long breath and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Turning his head to look at Zhao Xingxuan, Zhao Shimu saw him nod slightly. Zhao Shimu then nodded to Lu Huaishui and said, "Since the contract is as such, the Zhao clan is willing to compensate for this loss. At the same time, I hope that you can send another person to replace Senior Guan. If it's a nascent soul cultivator, that would be the best." Although 5,000 spirit crystals was a large sum for the Zhao family, under the current situation, Zhao Shimu couldn't bargain with them anymore. After all, the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce was an existence that the Zhao family couldn't afford to offend. Zhao Shimu couldn't ask for more than 5,000 spirit crystals to settle this matter and disgust the Qin family. Since they had reached an agreement, Zhao Shimu didn't procrastinate anymore. He decisively asked someone to prepare the spirit crystals and handed them over with both hands. After Lu Huaishui confirmed the number of spirit crystals, he threw them to the bodyguard and stood up to extend his hand. He put on a sincere smile and said, Mr. Zhao is indeed straightforward. It's also an honor for our Chamber of Commerce to be able to work closely with the Zhao family. Director Liu, you're too kind. Zhao Shimu watched as the 5,000 spirit crystals fell into the bodyguard's bag. Although he felt his heart ache, he still forced himself to put on a warm attitude and awkwardly shook Lu Huaishui's hand. Lu Huaishui put down Zhao Shimu's hand and said with a warm expression, "As for Guan Weicai's sect, I will think of a way to help you deal with it. This is also the obligation of the second party in our contract, so you don't have to worry about this for the time being." "Thank you so much." Zhao Shimu's voice finally sounded a little happier this time, and the smile on his face was more sincere. Then, about sending reinforcements, Lu Huaishui adjusted his collar and turned to look out the door. "Right now, we still have to go to the Qin family to ask for compensation and terminate this contract. It won't be too late to discuss sending reinforcements later." Chapter 1355. Yes, yes, yes. Director Liu is right. I will immediately bring you to the Qin family to ask for an explanation. This time, they must pay the price. Zhao Shimu nodded repeatedly. He did not dare to delay and took a few steps forward. Then, he suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Zhao Xingxuan. "Great-grandfather, why don't you wait in the house first? Director Liu and I will be back soon. I will report the situation to you then." "Alright, you guys go. I'm going back to cultivate." Zhao Xingxuan waved his hand disinterestedly. He, who had just lost face in front of Lu Huaishui, was naturally not interested in going with them. He responded casually and left in a huff. When Zhao Shimu, Lu Huaishui, and the others had just stepped out of the Zhao family's main gate, Qin Xingling and Xiao Chen were in the Qin family's guest hall, listening to the information that their subordinates had sent back from different places. Although the Qin family had already deployed people in a few small towns nearby, no matter how much they asked, they could not find the whereabouts of Cheng Menjing and the others. The news that came back made Xiao Chen a little disappointed. He did not know where they were in the vast immortal cultivation world, nor did he know where to start looking. "Immortal Xiao, why don't I get them to go to Lucian Prefecture to ask around?" After listening to everyone's reports, Qin Xingling frowned and asked in a low voice, "After all, there are many people there. There will be more merchants coming and going. Who knows, maybe we can find out the whereabouts of your friends. What do you think?" Whenever he thought about how Xiao Chang had done so much for the Qin family, but he could not even do such a small thing as find them, Qin Xingling felt very guilty. Xiao Chen thought for a while, nodded, and said somewhat helplessly, "All right, that's all we can do." "Thank you, old Master Qin. I did not expect that I would cause so much trouble for you after only coming to Yanlin town for a few days. I feel quite bad about it. Immortal Xiao, you are treating me like an outsider. To be able to do things for Immortal Xiao, it is a supreme honor for the Qin family." Qin Xingling waved his hand and said gratefully, "Moreover, you helped us deal with the Zhao family. The Qin family's income has increased several times compared to previous years. We should be thanking you." Due to Zhao Wendeng making a ruckus at the Qin clan last time, not only did he not succeed in extorting them, he even allowed Xiao Chen to take the opportunity to ridicule him and flee with his tail between his legs. These matters were witnessed by the people and merchants of Yanlin town, to the extent that many merchants believed that the Zhao clan was already at its end, and they decisively threw out an olive branch to the Qin clan one after another. "Old Patriarch Qin, you flatter me," Xiao Chen said modestly. Then, he touched his nose in puzzlement and asked, "By the way, where has Tao Tian been these days? Could it be that he was also sent to other places to look for people?" Ever since he killed the people from the Zhao family, Xiao Chen had not seen any trace of Qin Tao Tian for a long time. Originally, this kid had always surrounded him and tried to please him. Now that he was suddenly gone, Xiao Chen could not help but feel a little unaccustomed. "Not really. Qin Shengling shook his head and explained with a smile, "It's like this. Recently, a lot of merchants have come to our Qin clan to cooperate. I thought that Tao Tian's father has not fully recovered, and he may not have the energy to deal with people. Since Tao Tian will take over the Qin clan's business sooner or later, I simply let him talk to those merchants first and gain experience at the same time." Xiao Chen nodded in understanding. Just as he was about to praise him, a servant suddenly ran in from outside in a hurry. The two of them turned their heads and saw that the servant hurriedly saluted. He lowered his head and said carefully, "Master, Zhao Shimu, the head of the Zhao clan, is now outside the gate. He said that he wants to see you by name, and he has brought a few strangers with him. They look aggressive and seem to want to harm our Qin clan." "Pa!" Qin Shengling slammed the table heavily and stood up from the chair. He said angrily, "Why is it this kid again? Hasn't he learned enough from the lesson from the past few days? He actually dares to bring people to cause trouble. Isn't he looking down on our Qin clan too much? Old master, there's no need to be too angry. Since Zhao Shimu wants to court death, let's go out and meet him." Xiao Chen stood up and stretched. He grinned and said, "I'm quite curious to know what tricks he plans to play this time." From Xiao Chen's point of view, this Zhao clan was a bunch of people who did not learn their lesson. He might as well get rid of them all at once this time, lest they come to cause trouble for the Qin clan every now and then. "Ha ha ha. Xiao Cheng, although you're young, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. Do you really think that our Zhao clan can't do anything to you?" Before Xiao Chen and Qin Shengling could leave the guest hall, a voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. With a mocking voice, Zhao Shimu swaggered in with Director Lu and the rest. Zhao Shimu, who was walking at the front, pushed away the servant who was blocking the way. Caught off guard, the servant was pushed back a few steps and fell to the ground. However, he also knew that the Zhao family had always been overbearing, so he didn't dare to have any complaints. He could only endure the pain and climb up, standing obediently on the side. Zhao Shimu led Lu Huaishui into the hall and then casually sat in the guest seat. Lu Huaishui sat in the main seat and leisurely crossed his legs. He narrowed his eyes and scanned everyone present. "Who allowed you to?" Qin Shengling was about to explode in anger when he was interrupted by Lu Huaishui. "Mr. Zhao, was Guan Weikai killed by this kid?" Lu Huaishui's gaze finally stopped on Xiao Chen. A trace of viciousness flashed in his eyes. "That's right." Zhao Shimu pointed at Xiao Chen and introduced him seriously. "Don't be fooled by his young age. His attacks were extremely vicious. He killed Senior Guan without asking any questions. He used a strange spell to kill Senior Guan. We couldn't stop him in time." "Zhao Shimu. What's wrong with you? How dare you come to our house and spout nonsense? Is exalted immortal Xiao someone you can insult?" Before Xiao Chen could speak, Qin Shengling jumped up and shouted at Zhao Shimu. Zhao Shimu glanced at Qin Shengling. His eyes were filled with pride. He smiled coldly and added, "However, as far as I know, Xiao Cheng is only a watchdog hired by the Qin clan. Qin Shengling, that old thing, is the real mastermind. Director Lu, don't let him off. If that's the case, things will be easy." Lu Huaishui raised his eyebrows and slammed the contract on the table. Chapter 1356. Qin Shengling had been glaring at Zhao Shimu, but when he heard Lu Huaishui's words, he turned to look at him. He wanted to see what this weirdly dressed man had to say. Xiao Chen stood behind Qin Shengling, not in a hurry to speak. He looked at the people in front of him with great interest. He took a few more glances at Lu Huaishui's clothes, feeling that they looked familiar. Lu Huaishui ignored Xiao Chen's stare. Instead, he picked his ear with his left pinky and said calmly, "According to the terms of the contract, if an employee of the Chamber of Commerce is killed due to personal grudges, the employer and the killer will each have to pay half of the compensation as compensation to the Chamber of Commerce. The Zhao family has already paid them. You can pay the rest. Ridiculous. Qin Shengling clenched his fists, and a few veins popped on his forehead. He stared coldly at Director Liu and Zhao Shimu and said angrily, "It was Zhao Shimu who provoked the Qin family first. That Guan guy was too weak, so he was killed by exalted deity Xiao. Why should I pay for the losses? This is simply ridiculous and preposterous. Old man Qin, I think you've lived so long in vain." Zhao Shimu stood up and walked to Lu Huaishui's side. He pointed at Qin Shengling angrily and said, "A life for a life, a debt for a life. This is a matter of course. Don't you understand such a simple principle?" Lu Huaishui was getting a little impatient. He stretched out his index finger and poked the contract a few times. He glanced sideways at Qin Shengling and said, "Old man, the contract is written very clearly. Please open your presbyopic eyes and take a good look. It's okay if you can't read or understand the content. All you need to know is that you have to pay 5,000 spirit crystals." Nonsense. Why should I pay the spirit crystals? That surnamed Guan was obviously invited by the Zhao family. If anyone is going to compensate, it should be the Zhao family. Qin Shengling's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he roared in anger. "Old man, let me give you a piece of advice. If you don't take good care of yourself, your eyesight will deteriorate and your hearing will deteriorate." Lu Huaishui rolled his eyes and said angrily, "I've already said that the Zhao family has paid the compensation. Now it's your turn." "Exactly. It's already kind of me to ask the Qin family to pay some spiritual crystals." Zhao Shimu said sarcastically, "If you anger the Chamber of Commerce or the force behind Senior Guan, it's not something that can be solved with just a few spiritual crystals. Your entire Qin clan will disappear from the world of cultivators in an instant. Let me give you a piece of advice out of goodwill. Stop talking nonsense and hurry up and pay up." At this time, Zhao Shimu was standing beside Lu Huaishui, showing off his prowess. He seemed to have completely forgotten that he and Granduncle Zhao were trembling and bowing in front of Lu Huaishui just now. However, it might also be because of this humiliation that Zhao Shimu planned to make up for it with Qin Shengling. "You!" Qin Shengling was so angry that his eyes were wide open. Just as he was about to teach Zhao Shimu a lesson, he suddenly felt someone patting his shoulder. He turned around and saw Xiaochen smiling and saying softly to him, "Old Master Qin, please calm down. I'm quite interested in this contract. Let me take a look first." After saying that, Xiaochen took a few steps forward, reached out to take the contract on the table and flipped through it. Although Qin Shengling was still very angry in his heart, since Immortal Xiao had said so, he could only suppress his anger for the time being. After all, he knew that he did not understand this aspect at all. He also knew that the Zhao family must have come prepared this time. Therefore, he could only wait patiently for Xiao Chen to finish reading the contract. Staring at the contract in his hand, he repeatedly read it a few times. The more Xiao Chen looked at it, the more he felt that it was inexplicable. This contract was actually made according to the standards of the secular world. Not only did it include Party A and Party B, but it also included the responsibilities and obligations that both parties had to bear, as well as the penalties for breach of contract. There was also the date of signing and the signatures of all parties. It looked very proper and very formal. However, after reading it back and forth a few times, Xiao Chen found that there were many overbearing clauses in it. The entire contract was very beneficial to the Chamber of Commerce. It could even be said that the benefits were completely skewed. Glancing at the arrogant Zhao Shimu, Xiao Chen pursed his lips. This kind of contract that was commonly seen in the secular world was indeed very new in the world of immortal cultivation. These people naturally did not understand the mystery behind it. It seemed that the group of idiots from the Zhao family had also been deceived. But, why would such a secular contract appear in the world of immortal cultivation? Xiao Chen had extremely strong doubts in his heart. However, before he could ask, Lu Huaishui attacked first. May I ask if you have finished reading it? Lu Huaishui stared at Xiao Chen, who was constantly flipping through the contract. He frowned and urged, "Do you see the agreements that I have underlined? Please pay us 5,000 spirit crystals according to the agreement in the contract." What the hell did you write? Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and pinched the corner of the contract with his hand. He shook it a few times and said disdainfully, "This contract only has legal effect on the two parties who signed it. The Qin family did not sign or put their stamp on the contract, so they did not establish a labor relationship with you at all. What the hell are you giving it to us for?" Who said that? Lu Huaishui was stunned and subconsciously argued, "It is written that if the hired cultivator is killed, the killer and the employer will have to pay half of the compensation. I'll compensate you, my ass. This contract has nothing to do with us. Don't try to fool us." Xiao Chen snorted coldly. He raised his index finger and shook it slightly. Immediately, a cluster of red dancing flames leaped up from his fingertip. Lu Huaishui was shocked when he saw Xiao Chen's action. He was about to say something to stop him, but it was too late. He saw that Xiao Chen had casually set the contract in his hand on fire. The thin pieces of paper instantly turned into ashes. What the hell? How dare you burn the contract? Lu Huaishui was furious. He immediately jumped up from his chair and pointed at Xiao Chen, shouting, "Are you crazy? Do you want the experts of our Chamber of Commerce to set your bones?" As he roared, Lu Huaishui signaled the two bodyguards behind him with his eyes. When the two bodyguards received the signal, they immediately flipped the table in front of them and rushed forward. They revealed their cultivation and confronted Xiao Chen in an overbearing manner. As long as they waited for Lu Huaishui's order, they planned to directly break the neck of the fair-skinned boy in front of them. However, Xiao Chen didn't take the threats of the two bodyguards seriously at all. He casually dusted off the paper in his hand, glanced at Lu Huaishui, and coldly asked, "Also, what is this de Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce of Party beyond the contract?" Chapter 1357. Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Lu Huaishui immediately straightened his chest and said proudly, "This is the name of our Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce has branches all over the world, and our business covers." Before Lu Huaishui finished speaking, Xiao Chen immediately interrupted him and asked, "If that's the case, may I ask who the legal representative of your Chamber of Commerce is? Does it have a business license? Has it been recorded in the Bureau of Industry and Commerce? If not, you are a fake company, and you have to bear legal responsibility, you know?" What legal representative? Lu Huaishui blinked his eyes in confusion. He had no idea what Xiao Chen was talking about. Lu Huaishui himself was also a person from the immortal cultivation world. After entering the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, he went through systematic training, so he could fool people when he went out to do business. As a result, he didn't expect to meet a weirdo like Xiao Chen today. The terms he used seemed to be more professional than him. Lu Huaishui was completely confused. F***ck, you don't even know the legal representative, and you dare to open such a big company? It seems that your boss is quite bold. Xiao Chen exclaimed. He couldn't help but feel angry and funny at the same time. When he saw the contract just now, Xiao Chen was thinking about it. The name seemed to be similar to a certain taxi-hailing software in the secular world. After all, such a strange name could only be known by people in the secular world. Since it could spread in the immortal cultivation world, the behind-the-scenes boss of this company must be from the secular world. However, thinking of this, Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. Judging from this formal contract and the introduction of Director Lu just now, this de immortal cultivation chamber of commerce should have been established for some years. It didn't seem like it was established by people who had just entered the immortal cultivation world. Xiaochen remembered that among the people who entered the immortal cultivation world with him, the immortal cultivation sect and the ghost cultivation sect were in the martial arts world. They didn't know about the taxi-hailing software at all. Only Qing Menjing and the other women from the secular world and Yu Xiaochuan would know about it. However, they were the same as him. They had just entered the immortal cultivation world not long ago. How could they establish such a strange chamber of commerce? If he were to speculate further, Xishan Giant Ox had come in before, but judging from his attitude towards him later, he probably didn't mix well in the immortal cultivation world, so he shouldn't have done it. Could it be Situ Qitian who had destroyed the teleportation formation? This old fellow didn't seem to have the ability to do so. Xiaochen thought about it and couldn't help but be puzzled. He wanted to probe this Director Lu in front of him with a few words, but this guy seemed to have no concept of some professional terms in the secular world. Apart from knowing the contract and wearing the uniform, it seemed that he didn't know any more in-depth content. He wanted to ask a few more questions, but Xiaochen was somewhat hesitant. This de immortal cultivator's chamber of commerce seemed to be quite large. He had just entered the immortal cultivation world, so he didn't know whether the other party was a friend or a foe. If he revealed that he was from the secular world too early, he might attract the attention of people with ulterior motives. Originally, Xiaochen planned to keep a low profile for a while and gradually explore the mystery of the immortal cultivation world. If he followed this clue, it would be easy to alert the enemy. While Xiaochen was thinking intensely in his mind, Lu Huaishui waved his hand impatiently and said, "Okay, don't talk about those useless things. Your Qin family should give me a straightforward answer today. Do you want to compensate for the spirit crystals or not? Compensate your mother. A chamber of commerce without a legal person doesn't have any legal effect at all. Are you here to be funny?" Xiaochen had already made a decision at this time. For the time being, he would not explore the inside story behind this de immortal cultivator's chamber of commerce. Hearing Lu Huaishui's words, he directly asked with a cold face. "I don't know what you mean by legal effect, but now it seems that your Qin family is not going to compensate, right?" Lu Huaishui was confused by Xiaochen's professional jargon. He could not be bothered to think about it anymore, so he asked straightforwardly. Xiaochen spread out his hands and answered Lu Huaishui with silence. "Very well, since you don't want face, then don't blame me for not being polite." Lu Huaishui's face darkened. He turned to the two bodyguards and instructed, "You two, go and cripple that brat who talks nonsense and that old thing from the Qin family. Then, go and collect 5,000 spirit crystals. Watch out." The two bodyguards immediately shouted and rushed towards Xiaochen and Qin Shengling. Before Lu Huaishui came to the Qin family, he had already understood the situation from Zhao Shimu. He knew that the Qin family's master, Qin Shengling, was only at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, while Xiaochen was said to be slightly stronger. Therefore, he had arranged the division of labor in advance. The bodyguard at the peak of the Golden Core stage was responsible for dealing with Qin Shengling, while the other one who was half a step into the original infant stage was responsible for attacking Xiaochen. When Qin Shengling saw the two of them suddenly attacking him, his expression changed. He wasn't sure how strong Exalted Immortal Xiao was, so he could only retreat a few steps in a hurry. When Qin Shengling turned his head to look, he saw that Exalted Immortal Xiao was still smiling. He stood motionless in the same spot, looking very relaxed. He couldn't help but turn pale with fright. He thought to himself, what's going on with Exalted Immortal Xiao? Could it be that he already has a way to deal with it? When Zhao Shimu saw this scene, he laughed coldly. From his point of view, Xiao Chang was so afraid that he couldn't even move. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't deal with two cultivators at the peak of the Golden Core stage at the same time. Moreover, one of them was half a step into the original infant stage. Actually, this time, Zhao Shimu had the intention of killing with a borrowed knife. He hoped that the Qin family wouldn't be willing to pay the spirit crystals. If they paid the spirit crystals obediently, they would only be injured for a while. They would recover after a period of rest. If they didn't pay, then the Chamber of Commerce of Immortal Cultivators was not to be trifled with. Regardless of whether it was Xiao Chong or Qin Shengling, as long as one of them was seriously injured or died, the Qin family would be finished. However, in the next moment, the smile on Zhao Shimu's face froze. His expression also became distorted. This was because everything that had happened in front of him had changed too quickly. He couldn't react at all. The two bodyguards who were pouncing towards Xiao Chong and Qin Shengling suddenly paused in midair. Then, they turned around to face each other. The bodyguard at the peak of the Golden Core stage suddenly attacked and punched the other bodyguard. At the same time, the bodyguard who was half a step into the original infant stage heavily slapped him with his palm. After each of them suffered a blow, the two of them didn't stop. They continued to fight each other, inexplicably killing each other. Bang, bang. Two muffled sounds could be heard. The peak of the Golden Core stage bodyguard's lower abdomen was hit by a vicious palm. The bodyguard who was half a step into the original infant stage's chest was hit by a solid punch. The two of them were sent flying a few feet away by the strong impact. They landed heavily on the ground and both spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces were ashen. Chapter 1358. Lu Huaishui was also dumbfounded. It took him a long time to come to his senses. He was so angry that he jumped up and down. Pointing at them, he scolded, "What the hell are you doing? I asked you to beat up the people of the Qin family. Why did you kill each other?" I don't know. Just now, I suddenly felt that my body was out of control, so I hit them. Me too. Just now, I felt that my head was in a mess. I can't remember what happened. The two bodyguards propped themselves up and looked at each other in confusion. It was difficult for them to describe the situation just now, but because it was the first time they had encountered such a situation, they didn't know how to explain it for a while. "Lu, you brought these two idiots to the Qin family. First, you asked us to see the *T contract that had nothing to do with it. Now, you asked them to put on a farce of killing each other in front of us. What do you mean? Do you want us to give you a reward or something?" Xiao Chen sneered with his arms crossed. At first, Xiao Chen wasn't sure if he could use his mental strength to control cultivators. However, after experimenting, it was obvious that this method was feasible. He felt relieved. It seemed that he would have another life-saving skill in the world of cultivators in the future. They. Lu Huaishui was rendered speechless by Xiao Chen's words. He had no idea why his two bodyguards had suddenly started fighting each other. Now that they were both seriously injured, they probably couldn't do anything to the Qin family anymore. What do you mean by this and that? Isn't it written in the contract that you are the director of the marketing department? Didn't your boss teach you to speak clearly when you are running a business? You can't stammer, right? Otherwise, you will leave a bad impression on the customers. Xiao Chen interrupted him impatiently. All right, do you have anything else to say or not? If not, just get out of here. How could Lu Huaishui be willing to leave? His mind spun quickly. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as if he had recalled something. He hurriedly said, although the Qin family didn't sign an official contract with the Chamber of Commerce, Guan Weikai was killed by you. You have to bear secondary responsibility. So, you still have to pay the Chamber of Commerce 5,000 crystals as compensation. After saying that, Lu Huaishui secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He recalled that on the first day he entered the Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, he had participated in an eloquence training. One of the lessons talked about the difference between primary and secondary responsibilities. At that time, he didn't pay much attention to it, but he didn't expect it to come in handy today. Since you know we didn't sign the contract, why are you asking us to take responsibility? Xiaochen glared at Lu Huaishui and said angrily, "Where on earth did you learn this nonsense? If you really think that we are responsible, then go to court and sue me." At this point, Xiaochen couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with this half-baked guy anymore. After casually ordering his men to send the guest off, he turned around and planned to leave the living room. Wait. Seeing that Xiaochen was in a hurry to leave, Lu Huaishui thought that he was trying to escape and immediately stepped forward to stop him. "Is there anything else? Why are you so troublesome?" Xiaochen's patience was almost worn out. Although Lu Huaishui didn't know what the court that Xiaochen mentioned was, he still gritted his teeth and threatened him. "Do you know what will happen to you if you offend the Cultivation Chamber of Commerce?" "Oh, I don't know, and I don't want to know." Xiaochen shook his head. It seemed that Lu Huaishui was used to living a comfortable life and couldn't even see the situation in front of him clearly. Seeing that Xiaochen was so stubborn, Lu Huaishui felt a headache coming on. He grabbed Xiaochen's clothes and said fiercely, "If the Qin family doesn't take out 10,000 spirit crystals as compensation today, don't even think about having a good life in the future. Say, is your head pierced?" Xiaochen looked at Lu Huaishui with an inexplicable expression and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Just now, you said that you would pay 5,000 crystals, and in the blink of an eye, you raised it to 10,000 crystals. It seems that the business of your Cultivation Chamber of Commerce is quite good. No wonder you opened such a big business." While Xiaochen ridiculed him, he thought, "Is this how the Cultivation Chamber of Commerce makes money? The people in the world of cultivators are too stupid." "Humph. Of course, I'm not talking nonsense." Lu Huaishui sneered and immediately retorted, "My men were injured in the Qin family, so you have to pay 5,000 crystals for medical expenses. In addition to the compensation for killing Guan Weikai, it's a total of 10,000 crystals. I think you are the one with a bad brain. Don't you know the logic of 1 + 1 = 2? Lu Huaishui already knew that Xiaochen would ask this question, so he had already thought of an answer in advance. At this moment, he felt that he was very quick-witted. Xiaochen was not angry at all. Instead, he smiled warmly and stretched out his hand in front of Lu Huaishui. He said slowly, "I see. If you calculate it according to your magical logic, then please give me 100,000 crystals as compensation." "Ha ha ha. Xiaocheng, are you crazy? Why should I give you so many crystals?" Lu Huaishui was stunned at first, then he couldn't help but laugh. He felt that Xiaochen was definitely a lunatic. He reckoned that something must have gone wrong when he was cultivating, causing him to go berserk and become like this. "It's simple, I'll calculate it for you." Xiaochen said calmly, "Just now, when you came in, you knocked over a servant of the Qin family for no reason. He was seriously injured because of this. Then, your men fought with each other and flipped over the tables and chairs of the Qin family. I rented these tables and chairs to the Qin family. Although I didn't sign a contract with you, you still have to bear responsibility. As for the compensation for losing my youth and framing, I won't settle it with you for now. So, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and pay the crystals." As Xiaochen analyzed the situation to Lu Huaishui's face turned green and white. He was obviously angry. The servant who was knocked over was very smart. He was originally standing in the corner, but when he heard Xiaochen's words, he immediately fell to the ground. He held his stomach and shouted miserably, "Ouch, it hurts. I have an 80-year-old mother and a child waiting to be fed. After being kicked by you, I'm afraid I'll be bedridden. I won't be able to take care of them. TSK, TSK, TSK. Anyone who hears this will feel sad, and anyone who sees it will cry." This is too tragic. Xiao Chen looked at that person with sympathy and then sighed helplessly. He turned to look at Lu Huaishui and said, "It seems that you have to pay more crystals." Chapter 1359. That servant's injuries are not light. I'm afraid he won't be able to work for the rest of his life. Although the Qin family is kind and generous and will definitely pay him a sum of money, you can't get away with it. Since it's a joint responsibility, you'll have to pay another 50,000 spiritual crystals. Xiao Chen said decisively. Don't act like a grandson. You were just standing there, and now you want to blackmail us? Do you really think I'm a fool? Lu Huaishui stomped his feet in anger. He pointed at Xiao Chen's nose and scolded, "I'm not going to pay you. What can you do to me? Let me tell you, if you really piss me off, all of you will, Before Lu Huaishui could finish his sentence, Xiao Chen's hand, which was stretched out in front of him, suddenly changed its posture. He grabbed Lu Huaishui's neck and lifted him off the ground. Then, a faint wave of primordial qi gradually covered Xiao Chen's body. He stared at Lu Huaishui with a murderous look in his eyes and sneered, "Say it, why don't you continue? I'd like to hear what you can do if I really piss you off." Ahem. Xiao Chen. I was just, joking, please let me go. I'll pay you the spiritual crystals, Director Lu coughed a few times and replied with difficulty as he felt a strong sense of suffocation. Feeling the pressure released by Xiao Chen, Lu Huaishui couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Although he still couldn't figure out Xiao Chen's cultivation level, the strong pressure made him unable to resist at all. If you said that earlier, there wouldn't have been so much trouble, right? Xiao Chen snorted. He loosened his fingers and threw Director Lu to the ground. Lu Huaishui lay on the ground and covered his neck with his hands. His face was pale and he took a few deep breaths. He felt as if he had come back from the brink of death. Xiao Chen looked down at Lu Huaishui and said calmly, "I guess you don't have that many spiritual crystals on you. How about this, I'll give you 3 days to gather all the spiritual crystals and send them to the Qin family. Otherwise, I'll go find Zhao Shimu to settle the score. At that time, I'll ask for interest." After that, Xiao Chen ignored the horrified eyes of Lu Huaishui and turned to Qin Shengling and left the parlor with him. Although he had taught Lu Huaishui a harsh lesson, the doubts in Xiao Chen's heart only increased. Looking at the strength of the two bodyguards, one was at the peak of the gold core stage and the other was infinitely close to the nascent soul stage. Experts with such strength were actually only guards for someone. The background of this immortal cultivation chamber of commerce seemed to be extremely deep. Xiao Chen tried to ask Qin Shengling a few questions, but he realized that he did not know much about this chamber of commerce. He only knew that it was spread all over the immortal cultivation world and had many businesses. However, because the fees were more expensive, the Qin clan had never come into contact with it. After pondering for a long time, Xiao Chen decided to keep his doubts in his heart and keep a low profile for the time being. The most important thing right now was to find Cheng Menjing and the others. As for the situation of the immortal cultivation chamber of commerce, he could only put it aside for the time being. Once he had a firm foothold in the immortal cultivation world, he would have time to inquire about it. At this time, Qin Shengling was extremely shocked. He felt that not only was Xiao Chang's strength profound, but he also knew everything. With a few words, he was able to refute that Director Lu to the point of being speechless. Qin Shengling worshipped him even more. In the parlor, Lu Huaishui glared angrily at Xiao Chen's back as he left. He gritted his teeth and stood up. In his heart, he thought to himself, "Brat, this grudge between us is formed. What's so great about being stronger than me? Let's see how our Chamber of Commerce will deal with you later." Although he was angry, Lu Huaishui had no other way out. He could only leave the Qin family with his injured subordinates and Zhao Shimu. He planned to go back and report the situation to his superiors before thinking about the next step. After leaving the Qin family, Lu Huaishui was really angry. He directly reprimanded Zhao Shimu at the entrance of the Qin family's house. Then, he angrily walked in the direction of the Zhao family. This scene was seen by the surrounding people once again, causing the Zhao family's reputation to suffer another blow. It directly fell to the bottom. Although Zhao Shimu was sullen, there was nothing he could do. He could only sullenly follow Lu Huaishui back to the Zhao family and wait for him to call the higher-ups of the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce for instructions. After Lu Huaishui arrived at the Zhao family, he did not delay any further. He immediately used the voice transmission talisman to call the higher-ups and briefly described what had happened today. He emphasized the words that Xiao Chen had said that he did not understand. The higher-ups of the Chamber of Commerce were also half-baked. After listening to the story, they were also very puzzled. They did not understand what Xiao Chang meant by the court and legal representative, nor did they understand why the two bodyguards would suddenly fight each other. They only expressed their shock at the situation that Lu Huaishui had encountered. At the moment, they could not think of a suitable solution. They could only helplessly order Director Lu to wait at the Chamber of Commerce branch in Luxian County. After they reported the situation to the higher-ups, they would wait for further instructions. While Lu Huaishui was reporting, Zhao Shimu had already told the whole story to Zhao Xingxuan, who had rushed over. Zhao Xingxuan was stunned and did not recover for a long time. How is this Xiao Chang so powerful? Even the bodyguards of the Chamber of Commerce can't do anything to him. After the report, Director Lu put away the remaining voice transmission talismans. Then, he stood up and solemnly warned Zhao Shimu, "Mr. Zhao, I have to go to the Chamber of Commerce branch in Luxian County first. Firstly, this is an order from the higher-ups. Secondly, I have to report the death of Guan Weicai's sect. I advise the Zhao family to be more obedient during this period of time. Don't rashly go against the Qin family." You're leaving just like that? Zhao Shimu was shocked. He hurriedly stopped Lu Huaishui and said, "But, Director Lu, if you leave just like that, what if Xiao Chang comes 3 days later to collect the debt? Why don't you send another expert to the Zhao family? Otherwise, our small family won't be able to deal with that guy." At this moment, Zhao Shimu could not help but feel extremely regretful. He originally wanted to use the power of the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce to uproot the Qin family. In the end, he did not expect that he would go for wool and come home shorn. Instead, his family was ruthlessly cheated. Furthermore, he had signed the contract in black and white, so he had no choice but to give it to him. You make it sound so easy. In such a short time, where am I going to find help for you? Lu Huaishui rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "Furthermore, I have only received a portion of Guan Weicai's compensation. The Chamber of Commerce will have to pay the rest themselves. Our Chamber of Commerce's spirit crystals do not fall from the sky." Chapter 1360. Actually, what Lu Huaishui was most concerned about was where he could get the other portion of the compensation. After all, the contract clearly stated that he had to get back 10,000 spiritual crystals. However, he was still short of half of it. If something went wrong and the higher-ups asked him to pay for it, Lu Huaishui would lose more than he gained. "Director Lu, why don't you help us think of another way? You see, we've already paid the 5,000 spiritual crystals. You can't just leave us like this." Zhao Shimu pleaded with a bitter face. Lu Huaishui's eyes turned and he suddenly thought of an idea. He glanced at Zhao Shimu and said, "Why don't you give me another 5,000 spiritual crystals? I'll think of a way to help you. Who knows, we might really be able to invite a more powerful expert over." "Lu, you really like to demand an exorbitant price." When Zhao Xingxuan, who was standing at the side with his hands behind his back, heard this, he couldn't help but curse angrily. Your Chamber of Commerce can't even deal with a brat who hasn't even grown his hair. Not only did you cause the Zhao family to lose face in Yanlin town, but you still dare to ask us to pay 5,000 spiritual crystals? I think you've gone crazy thinking about the spiritual crystals, right? Hee, old thing, it's up to you whether you want to pay or not. At most, our Chamber of Commerce will pay for it ourselves. It's not like we can't afford it anyway. Lu Huaishui sneered and said in a strange tone, but don't blame me for not reminding you. If Xiao Chang comes to collect the debt in 3 days, he won't be able to be dismissed with just a few thousand spiritual crystals. You better think about it carefully. Goodbye. After he finished speaking, Lu Huaishui waved his sleeves and strode out of the door with his 2 bodyguards. Director Lu, please wait. Please wait. Zhao Shimu's body trembled. He finally realized the seriousness of this problem from Lu Huaishui's words. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He immediately ran over to stop Lu Huaishui, who was about to reach the door. What else do you want? Don't tell me you want to get back the 5,000 spiritual crystals fine you just paid? Lu Huaishui stared at Zhao Shimu and mocked him. Director Lu, my great-grandfather is quite impatient, and his words are also very blunt. Please don't lower yourself to his level, Director Lu. Zhao Shimu did not dare to be angry at all. He said with a smile, I suddenly remembered that our Zhao family's rental service seemed to be for a year. It's not even a year yet. We can't just let it go, right? You don't have to worry about that. Our Chamber of Commerce will naturally continue to provide services before the end of the year. Director Lu straightened his sleeves and smiled as he stared at Zhao Shimu. His smile was like a spring breeze, as if he wasn't angry at all. That's good, that's good. Zhao Shimu nodded his head continuously. He finally felt relieved. But I've made it very clear today. Lu Huaishui changed the topic and said slowly, as long as you're willing to give me some more spirit crystals, I'll be able to explain it to my superiors when I get back. Things will naturally be smoother and the speed of sending people over will be faster. We won't have to wait 10 days or half a month to invite the next expert. What do you think? Zhao Shimu's expression changed several times, but he still couldn't make up his mind. Lu Huaishui was not anxious. He stood at the entrance of the Zhao family's house and looked around with interest. After thinking for a moment, Zhao Shimu finally gritted his teeth and nodded. All right. We'll do as you say. However, we have to do things according to the contract this time. You have to send an even more powerful person to our Zhao family. He has to be at least an original soul stage expert. This way, we can ensure that this expert can secretly investigate Xiao Chang's strength and also consolidate the Zhao family's position in Yanlin town. You don't have to worry about that. Lu Huaishui agreed immediately. Our Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce has an extremely outstanding reputation in the industry. As long as it's a matter stipulated in the contract, we will definitely complete it according to the contract. There will definitely be no cases of breaking the contract. Seeing that Lu Huaishui had already said so, Zhao Shimu didn't want to delay any further. He personally ordered 5,000 spiritual crystals and handed them over to Lu Huaishui reluctantly. Although the compensation fee was much higher than expected, Zhao Shimu weighed the pros and cons in his heart. After spending these spiritual crystals, he would be able to earn them back one day. It was much better than being powerless when Xiao Chang came looking for him to settle the debt. He could only watch helplessly as the Zhao family was wiped out by Xiao Chang. Ha ha ha. Mr. Zhao is indeed an understanding person. After Lu Huaishui counted the number of spiritual crystals and confirmed that there were no mistakes, he patted Zhao Shimu's shoulder and smiled in satisfaction. When I return, I will first settle the procedures for Guan Wei Kai. Then, I will personally make a trip to the sect he is in. After settling this matter, I will immediately send him over to you. You can rest assured and wait for my good news. Looking at the backs of Lu Huaishui and his group leaving, Zhao Shimu's heart was also in a mess. He had always felt that Lu Huaishui was a strange person. He always used strange terms when he spoke and seemed rather unreliable. However, apart from the Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce, he couldn't find a better backing. He could only hope that the Chamber of Commerce could give him another shot. Actually, Zhao Shimu was thinking too much. Although Lu Huaishui seemed to be sly and unreliable, he really valued the credibility of the Chamber of Commerce. He also didn't want to see the customers in his hands lose. Therefore, after returning to the Luxian Prefecture branch and settling the relevant matters, Lu Huaishui immediately brought his two subordinates and personally went to the secluded forest sect where Guan Weikai was. In the secluded forest sect's guest hall, a middle-aged man dressed in a long blue robe listened to Lu Huaishui's narration of the entire incident with a serious expression. His brows furrowed from time to time. When he heard that the two bodyguards of the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce had inexplicably attacked each other without knowing what had happened, the middle-aged man's face revealed an extremely astonished expression. It was obvious that he was quite fearful of Xiao Chen's strength. Sect leader Guan, this is the basic situation. Our Chamber of Commerce also expresses its deep regret regarding the death of Senior Guan. After briefly explaining what had happened, Lu Huaishui took out a heavy bag and gently placed it on the table. Then, he pushed it towards the middle-aged man. This is... Sect leader Guan glanced at the bag on the table. Although he had a rough idea of what it was, he still asked symbolically. This is the funeral compensation for Senior Guan Weikai. It is a total of 10,000 spiritual crystals. This is also a small token of our Chamber of Commerce. Please take a look. Lu Huaishui sat upright and explained without a change in his expression. Chapter 1361. According to what you said, Xiao Chang should be quite powerful. After knowing that the bag contained spiritual crystals, sect leader Guan did not seem to care too much. He only nodded slightly and asked with a sullen face, has your Chamber of Commerce gotten hold of Xiao Chang's information? Which sect is he from, and what is his relationship with the Qin family of Yanlin Town? For a mid-tier sect like the Tranquil Forest sect, although spirit crystals were a very important resource, mid-tier gold core stage experts were even more rare talents. The amount of money and resources needed to cultivate a gold core stage expert had already far exceeded these 10,000 spirit crystals. That was why sect leader Guan was so depressed and wanted to know the background of the murderer. We are still investigating. Lu Huaishui smiled sheepishly and said awkwardly, however, the other party's current attitude is very rude and unreasonable. It may affect the progress of the investigation. So this time, I am here to communicate with the secluded forest sect and see how we should handle this. What do you mean by that? Sect leader Guan raised his eyebrows and looked at Lu Huaishui as he asked, isn't it the duty of the Dada Immortal Cultivation Chamber of Commerce to investigate the other party's background? Why do you want to communicate with us? It's like this. Lu Huaishui explained unhurriedly, our Chamber of Commerce is deeply saddened by Senior Guan's passing and can understand the Tranquil Forest sect's eagerness to capture the murderer. Because we do not have many people now, if you hand it over to us to investigate, it may take more time. You mean, you want the Tranquil Forest sect to assist you in the investigation? Sect leader Guan's mind was very sharp and he understood Lu Huaishui's intention immediately. If the Tranquil Forest sect is willing to send another expert, that would be the best. Lu Huaishui smiled and nodded. On one hand, he can go to the Zhao family and continue to serve as a priest and receive the remuneration he deserves. On the other hand, he can also assist our people to investigate Xiao Chang's identity and background. I see. Sect leader Guan rubbed his temples. After thinking for a moment, he slowly opened his mouth and said, how about this? I will send another golden core expert to the Zhao family to continue Guan Weicai's work. Lu Huaishui's expression changed slightly. When he was about to say something, sect leader Guan's expression suddenly turned serious. He stared at Lu Huaishui and added coldly, "But your people can't stay idle. This time, you have to ensure his safety. If anything happens to our master, it won't be as simple as compensating the spiritual crystals. Sect leader Guan, if I may be so bold as to say, I'm afraid an expert at the peak of the gold core stage is not qualified for this job." Lu Huaishui shook his head and said helplessly with a bitter face. "Incompetent? Do you know what you're saying?" Sect Master Guan thought that Lu Huaishui was trying to bargain and ask for a stronger person to be sent out. His face darkened and he felt a little displeased. "To be honest, sect leader Guan, one of my 2 bodyguards is a master at the peak of the gold core stage, and the other has reached the realm of half a step to the Yuanying stage." Lu Huaishui's expression was a little bitter. "You mean?" Sect leader Guan was stunned. His astonished gaze shifted to the 2 people standing behind Lu Huaishui. Although he was unwilling to admit it, Lu Huaishui still sighed and told the truth. Yes, the 2 of them suffered a loss at the hands of that Xiao Chang. "So, I suggest that you send someone more powerful, or else." Lu Huaishui did not finish his sentence. Instead, he smiled helplessly and made an expression that said, "You know what I mean. That's impossible, right? Even an immortal cultivator who is half a step to the Yuanying stage is no match for him." Although sect leader Guan had a vague premonition in his heart, he was still very shocked when he heard Lu Huaishui admit it personally. He stared at the 2 bodyguards in a daze. Lu Huaishui did not say much. He directly gestured for the 2 bodyguards behind him to show their cultivation to prove to sect leader Guan that what he said was true. Sect leader Guan frowned. Suddenly, he recalled Director Lu's description and made a firm judgment. It seems that the person whom the Qin clan invited is at least an expert at the first level of the Yuanying stage. Your minds must have been controlled by his mental strength. That's why you killed each other. The 2 bodyguards nodded their heads bitterly. After they left the Qin clan, they analyzed the situation and concluded that it should be so. After all, after reaching the Yuanying stage, an immortal cultivator's mental strength would be very strong. Therefore, they would be controlled at the same time and act involuntarily. Sect leader Guan suddenly stood up and paced back and forth anxiously. His expression was a little grave. According to his understanding, there were not many Yuanying stage experts in the Luxian prefecture. The sects that had such experts were even rarer. Including his own Tranquil Forest sect, there were only 2 of them. The other sect was the Burning Sky faction, which was the sworn enemy of the Tranquil Forest sect in the Luxian prefecture. Could it be that Xiao Chang was one of them? But why would the Burning Sky faction send an Yuanying stage expert to Yanlin town for no reason? This did not make sense. Sect leader Guan, I have already said what I need to say. Seeing that sect leader Guan was deep in thought for a long time, Lu Huaishui's expression did not look good. He said coldly, "If you insist on sending a Golden Core full circle disciple to the Zhao clan, then I advise you not to do so. This will damage the reputation of our Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, it will be a wasted sacrifice of a disciple. There is absolutely no need for this. Oh, this is a serious matter. I need to consider it carefully." Sect leader Guan still could not figure out the connection between the Yuanying stage expert and the Burning Sky faction. Hearing this, he could only give a vague answer. "All right, then you should consider it carefully. Give me an answer after you have thought it through. I will take my leave first." Seeing that sect leader Guan did not agree after a long time, Lu Huaishui was also a little impatient. He simply stood up, cupped his hands, and left the Tranquil Forest sect with his subordinates. After sending Lu Huaishui off, sect leader Guan did not leave the guest hall. He still sat there, deep in thought. It was not that he did not believe in Lu Huaishui's words. It was just that the highest level that the Tranquil Forest sect could freely dispatch was only a Golden Core full circle disciple. The cultivation of the others was not even worth mentioning. Even if they were to go, they would only be sending themselves to death as cannon fodder. But if he did not send anyone to the Zhao clan, then not only would he not be able to avenge Guan Weikai, if news of this were to spread, the prestige of the sect would definitely be damaged. After all, the Tranquil Forest sect was one of the two main sects in the Lucian prefecture. If his disciple was killed for no reason and he, as the sect leader, turned a blind eye to it, he was afraid that he would not be able to stay in the Lucian prefecture anymore. Chapter 1362. After thinking for a long time, sect leader Guan slapped the handle of the chair heavily, as if he had finally made a decision. He stood up and left the room, walking towards a room on the east side of the sect. Greetings, sect leader. Outside a secret building on the east side of the Tranquil Forest sect, two young disciples were guarding the place, chatting about anything and everything. Just as they were chatting excitedly, one of the disciples saw sect leader Guan walking over slowly with a serious expression. He was instantly shocked and hurriedly bowed to him. Sect leader Guan nodded slightly and did not speak, staring at the door with slight hesitation. The two disciples looked at each other, feeling a little uneasy. They had been chatting too enthusiastically just now. Would they have angered the sect leader? You two, go in and inform Uncle Mastering that I have something important to discuss with him. Sect leader Guan's hesitation flashed past, and he did not care about the expressions of the two disciples, waved his hand casually and said, But Uncle Mastering is in seclusion. The two disciples immediately looked awkward, and were thinking about how to refuse when they heard sect leader Guan yell impatiently, Nonsense. Of course I know that he is in seclusion, just go ahead and inform him. If there is any problem, I will take responsibility. Yes, we will go now. The two disciples could not help but shiver, and did not dare to say anything more. One of them hurriedly turned around and ran into the room, while the other waited outside the door with a nervous smile. Not long after, the disciple who went to inform sect leader Guan ran back. He first panted for a while, then said a little awkwardly, reporting to sect leader, Uncle Mastering asked you to tell us the situation directly, and also said that if it is not too important, do not disturb his cultivation. What the hell, why does it seem like he is not concerned at all? Sect leader Guan muttered gloomily, but did not dare to disobey the order of that Uncle Mastering, so he could only tell the whole story of his disciple Guan Weikai losing his life in the Qin family, as well as the cause and effect. Alright, please wait for a moment, sect leader. After listening, the disciple nodded and went back to report. But this time, he came back even faster. Standing in front of sect leader Guan, he said in a low voice with a flushed face, Sect leader, Marshal Granduncleing, he hasn't made any moves. He doesn't seem to be too concerned about this matter. Do you think we should? Forget it. Let's wait for him to come out of seclusion. Seeing that his uncle master was not interested at all, sect leader Guan had no other choice. He could not be bothered to wait any longer, so he waved his hand and turned to leave. Anyway, even Marshal Uncle didn't care about him, so what was the point of coaxing him? If he had the time, he might as well do something else. Looking at sect leader Guan's back as he left, the two disciples on guard looked at each other. Although they were curious as to how Uncle Guan, who was already at the Golden Core perfection stage, could be killed so easily, as low-level disciples, they naturally did not dare to ask too many questions. They could only continue to stand guard at the entrance. Actually, sect leader Guan had misunderstood Uncle Ing, who was in seclusion. It was not that he was indifferent to the disciples of the faction, but he was about to break through to the original infant stage level 3 and was stuck at an important juncture. Hence, he did not pay much attention to these trivial matters. After all, the most important thing now was to successfully break through and increase his cultivation. However, What was strange was that although sect leader Guan had repeatedly given strict orders to not spread the news, there were still people who spread the news of Guan Weizai's death. And the more it spread, the more exaggerated it became. In the end, in the entire Luxian prefecture, as long as you randomly picked someone on the street, they would be able to narrate the story vividly. There were various versions of the story, and every version could be made into a drama. The rumor was so rampant that it eventually reached the ears of the Burning Sky faction, which had a hostile relationship with the Secluded Forest sect. After hearing the news, the Burning Sky faction naturally would not let go of such a great opportunity. They ridiculed the Secluded Forest sect, and even allowed their disciples to provoke the people of the Secluded Forest sect in Luxian prefecture. They mocked them for being cowards who did not even flinch when their own people were killed. Even sect leader Guan did not escape from the ridicule. The people of the Burning Sky faction openly spoke disrespectfully in Luxian prefecture, and directly accused him of being a sect leader who could not protect his disciples. The Secluded Forest sect would definitely fall and disappear under such people. After such a commotion, the reputation of the Secluded Forest sect plummeted. Many disciples were even more dissatisfied and left the faction to find another way out. Sect leader Guan was neither blind nor deaf. Naturally, he had heard of the rumors in the outside world. In the beginning, he had only wanted to catch the originator of the rumors. Then, after a long time, these unsubstantiated rumors would naturally die down. In the end, he did not expect that the spy in the faction would not be caught, and instead, the rumors would spread more and more. Seeing that the number of disciples in the Secluded Forest sect was decreasing, sect leader Guan could not help but fly into a rage. However, he could not do anything to the person who spread the rumors. He could not possibly catch and kill the person who spread the rumors, right? If that was the case, the people in Luxian prefecture would basically be killed. Helplessly, sect leader Guan could only go to the small house where Uncle Mastering was in seclusion once again. He told Uncle Mastering about the rumors that were spreading everywhere, as well as the merciless ridicule of the Secluded Forest sect by the Burning Sky faction. He hoped that this time, Uncle Mastering could come out and take charge of the situation. This time, Uncle Mastering was really persuaded by sect leader Guan. In addition to the fact that he had successfully broken through to the third level of the original infant stage, he decisively left the place where he was in seclusion. In a rage, he led sect leader Guan and a group of disciples, intending to give the Burning Sky faction a show of strength. Although a group of people went to the Burning Sky faction in a mighty manner, Uncle Mastering did not really expect to destroy the faction. The Burning Sky faction and the Secluded Forest sect were both the top factions in Luxian prefecture. Their strengths were not too different. Even if there was a large-scale conflict, neither side would be at a great disadvantage. Therefore, the purpose of Uncle Mastering this time was to put on a show, to tell the whole Luxian prefecture that the Secluded Forest sect had not declined, and was still one of the leading factions. Those disturbing rumors were fabricated by the people of the Burning Sky faction, and should not be believed easily. Naturally, the Burning Sky faction was well aware of this matter. Therefore, when the people from the Secluded Forest sect came to denounce them, both sides exchanged a few insults and sent out a few disciples to fight. After both sides had a winner and a loser, the matter ended abruptly. Although the purpose of this trip had been achieved, Uncle Mastering was not willing to let his faction suffer such a huge loss for no reason. Therefore, he shouted loudly outside the door of the Burning Sky faction, saying that he wanted to first go to the Qin clan of Yanlin town to kill the murderer, Xiao Chang, and then come back to settle the score with the people of the Burning Sky faction who spread the rumors. After finishing his words, Uncle Mastering left angrily with a group of people. Chapter 1363. Not long after the people from the Tranquil Forest sect left, a black figure quietly appeared at the back door of the Burning Sky faction. That person vigilantly observed the surroundings for a while, and after making sure there were no strangers nearby, he tiptoed out, and then used his movement skills to quickly run in the direction of Yanlin town. In the Qin family mansion, Qin Shengling was chatting with Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu when a servant suddenly ran in, still looking a little flustered. What's going on? Could it be that someone from the Zhao family has come to provoke us again? Qin Shengling was all too familiar with the servant's appearance, and immediately frowned and asked. No. No. The servant shook his head and reported respectfully, reporting to master, there is a man dressed in black from Wuxia Prefecture outside the door who has come to visit. He claims to be the managing elder of the Burning Sky faction, and also showed his identity token, saying that he has important matters to discuss with master, so I hurriedly came in to report. The managing elder of the Burning Sky faction? Qin Shengling was slightly startled when he heard this, and suddenly came to a realization. He suddenly stood up and said, could it be that Elder Gong has come? Quickly invite him in. That's right, while you're at it, ask someone to prepare some top-notch snacks, and then brew a pot of top-notch Longjing tea. Remember to use 70% hot water. Qin Shengling first sent the servant to invite Elder Gong, and then hurriedly ordered the other servants to prepare various things. It seemed that he wanted to receive the visitor with the grandest etiquette of the Qin family, and absolutely could not be neglected. Seeing Qin Shengling's nervous look, Xiaochen felt that it was very interesting, and asked with a slight smile, Old Patriarch Qin, I didn't expect that you would prepare such a grand welcoming ceremony for just one person. It seems that this managing elder is an old friend of yours? It can't be considered an old friend. This old man just had the fate to meet this managing elder once. Qin Shengling touched his nose and answered a little embarrassedly. Qin Shengling thought that Xiao Chen was jealous. After all, when Xiao Chen was invited to the Qin family by Qin Tao Tian, he did not give him such treatment, and instead gave him the cold shoulder, so he felt a little awkward at this time. Oh. Since it's not a firm friendship, then it seems that the Burning Sky faction has a very strong background? Xiao Chen didn't care about Qin Shengling's thoughts, but continued to ask with interest. Qin Shengling explained with a smile, Exalted deity Xiao, you may not know this, but the Burning Sky faction is one of the two major factions in Wuxia Prefecture. The other one is the Tranquil Forest sect. The power of these two factions basically covers the entire Wuxia Prefecture. No other faction can compete with them. So that's how it is. I wonder how strong these two sects are. Xiao Chen nodded and asked curiously, Burning Sky faction or Tranquil Forest sect, which one is stronger? Although he had been in the immortal cultivation world for quite some time, Xiao Chen was still not very clear about the distribution of power in Wuxia Prefecture. Since he had the opportunity, he wanted to understand more about it. I heard that the strength of these two sects is about the same. Both are quite powerful, which is why they each occupy half of the sect. Neither sect can destroy the other. Qin Shengling rubbed his chin and answered hesitantly. Then are there any powerful experts in their sects? What level are they? Xiao Chen was still not satisfied and continued to ask. I don't know about that. Qin Shengling's face fell. He grinned helplessly and said gloomily, with the Qin clan's current strength, it is not enough to reach that level. Xiao Chen was a little disappointed. Just as he was about to continue speaking, he saw a servant leading a middle-aged man from outside the door. The middle-aged man walked to the center of the hall and stood firmly. He first swept his gaze over everyone present. His gaze lingered on Xiao Chen and Hong Zhu for a while. Then, he bowed slightly to Qin Shengling and said in a clear voice, Clan Master Qin, I am Gong Xiaoxi, the acting elder of the Burning Sky faction. It is our first time meeting. Nice to meet you. Elder Gong, please don't be so polite. Qin Shengling waved his hands and walked in front of Gong Xiaoxi. He said very eagerly, it is our great honor to have an elder of such a big faction like you visit our Qin clan as a guest. This Qin is deeply honored. Come, please take a seat. Qin Shengling made an inviting gesture to Gong Xiaoxi and led both Xiao Chen and Gong Xiaoxi to the seat of honor. He then stood respectfully to the side and quietly waited for instructions. He was still a little nervous in his heart. He did not know why Gong Xiaoxi had suddenly come to visit. He, Clan Master Qin, there is no need to be so restrained. You should also sit down and chat. Gong Xiaoxi looked at Xiao Chen with some surprise and then said to Qin Xingling with a smile. Qin Xingling smiled embarrassedly and found a guest seat to sit down. He only dared to sit on half of the seat and looked very serious and nervous. Seeing that Qin Xingling was very respectful towards Xiao Chen, Gong Xiaoxi guessed that this young man in front of him had a very prominent identity. Therefore, he maintained his smile and asked politely, "This young hero must be the Qin clan's Honorable Xiao Chang, right? You are indeed a promising young man to be able to make the old ghost of the secluded forest sect go to war for you. May I ask, which sect are you a proud disciple of?" You know my name?" Xiao Chen was slightly taken aback. He did not expect that the first thing Gong Xiaoxi asked after his polite greetings was actually about his situation. He could not help but look at him with extreme vigilance. Although Xiao Chen did not feel that this fellow had any hostility towards him, he had always been cooped up in Yanlin town. There should not be many people who knew his name. Where did Gong Xiaoxi hear it from? And who was that old ghost of the secluded forest sect? Why did he go to war for him? Young hero need not be nervous. Do you still remember that old man, Guan Weikai, who was killed by you? He is the Zhao clan's honorable disciple. He is a disciple of the secluded forest sect. Gong Xiaoxi waved his hand and signaled for Xiao Chen to be at ease before explaining. Then you are. The doubt in Xiao Chen's heart did not diminish. A disciple of the secluded forest sect was killed by him. Shouldn't the secluded forest sect come to find trouble with him? Why did the people from the Burning Sky sect come here? Actually, the whole thing is like this. Gong Xiaoxi did not keep him in suspense. With a smile on his face, he briefly described the relationship between the Burning Sky sect and the secluded forest sect. Then, he recounted how the secluded forest sect brought people to provoke the Burning Sky sect. So that's how it is. I was still puzzled. Xiao Chang, my husband, you did not advertise, nor did you leave Yanlin town. How did your reputation spread so quickly? It gave me a big fright. Hong Zhu, who was sitting on the other side, came to a sudden realization after listening. He curled his lips and said, I thought that there would be many women coming to snatch my husband from me very soon. Scared this baby to death. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.